Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. Marvel's Thanos' little brother and I have super god villain system. Chapter 81. If the X-Men find Magneto first, then it is obvious that Magneto's plan will be stopped. After all, justice will always triumph over villains. This is almost an old rule that has never changed. So before that, Sook has to help Magneto and let this guy speed up the progress so that he can achieve his goal. As soon as he stepped out of the time and space channel, Sook instantly appeared on an isolated island in the Atlantic Ocean. Who is it? Just when Sook appeared, the mutants in charge of guarding the island discovered his presence. Sook smiled faintly and stared at the mutants in front of him. He knew that these mutants should be members of Magneto's Brotherhood. Where is Magneto? I want to see him. Sook didn't waste any words and directly stated his purpose. After hearing this, several mutants became more alert, but before they figured out the situation, they didn't dare to act rashly. They could only ask with a vigilant look on their faces, "Who are you?" "You idiots, get out of here right now, this guy is the boss's guest." Before Sook could say anything, a scolding suddenly came from not far away, and then a mutant walked towards Sook. Sook looked up and suddenly remembered that it seemed that this guy came with Magneto when he came to the mutant school. As for why Sook had an impression of him, it was because this guy was too ugly, with black hair all over his face and exposed teeth, just like a werewolf. This mutant who looked like a werewolf obviously had a certain status here. After hearing his words, the mutants who had been blocking Sook before left consciously. "Hello, my name is Tiger, welcome here, our boss has been waiting for you for a long time, please follow me." Tiger smiled politely at Sook, and then made a gesture of invitation. Sook was surprised. How did Magneto know that he was coming? Are there mutants here who can foresee the future? Curious, he did not hesitate, and followed Tiger indirectly. Magneto's base was built using the mountains on the entire island. The huge mountain was hollowed out from the middle by them, and the space inside was extremely large. As soon as he entered, Sook saw a large open space with about 30 planes parked on the open space. Obviously, these should be the planes of the missing national leaders. His guess was right. Then, in a room with a pretty good environment, Sook finally met Magneto, and at this time, Tiger also consciously withdrew. "Please take a seat." Magneto pointed to the sofa next to him and said to Sook, "The environment here may not be as good as that of the mutant school, please don't mind, and welcome." Sook sat down and asked in surprise, "How did you know I would come?" "Very simple," Magneto said with a smile. "Because no matter whether it is human or mutant affairs, you will intervene, and they will all ask you for help." "Then do you know why I came here?" Sook looked at Magneto with interest. "I don't know, but then again, even if I knew, what would it matter? Anyway, I can't stop you, because you are really powerful." When saying this, Magneto couldn't help feeling a sense of loss in his heart, because in his opinion, Sook was most likely here to rescue the national leaders who had been kidnapped by him before. If other people came to rescue people, he would definitely start fighting without saying a word, but facing Sook, he didn't even dare to think about it, because in front of Sook, he absolutely had no chance to resist. As long as Sook is willing, I'm afraid they will all be killed in an instant. This is a strong man. A real strong man. Sensing the loss in Magneto's eyes, Sook just felt funny, and then he didn't keep it a secret, and said directly, "Don't get me wrong, the reason I came here is just to tell you that Professor X has discovered this place, and he will send the X-Men tomorrow. No matter what you have to do, you'd better finish it tonight, otherwise you won't have a chance tomorrow." When Magneto heard this, he was a little surprised, and then looked at Sook in disbelief and said, "Wait. Aren't you here to save people? Aren't you here to stop me? Don't think too much. What do those humans have to do with me? Why should I stop you? I'm just curious about what's going to happen next, and I don't want this to be interrupted by the X-Men, so I want to tell you, just do what you should do." Sook said lightly. When Magneto heard this, a smile suddenly appeared on his lips. But then, Sook suddenly thought of something and asked, "By the way, your plan this time shouldn't harm the little rascal's life, right?" "Of course not," Magneto immediately assured. "The little rascal is just a medium. When it's over, she will be injured at most, but she won't die." "Very good, then take me to see the mutant converter. I am very interested in this thing," Sook said, and then stood up. I'm glad you think so. It seems that Charles's old-fashioned ideas have not affected you. Please follow me, it's about to begin. After making sure that Sook would not stop him, Magneto finally relaxed completely. Then, the two of them came to a very large cave, one after the other. In the middle of the cave was a huge machine with a glass window on the machine. Inside was a girl who was in a coma. It was Little Rogue. Facing the machine was a group of people locked in cages. Looking at their clothes, Sook was sure that these should be the leaders of the 30 countries who were captured. Magneto's crazy plan is about to begin. My people have always been oppressed by humans. Even though everyone keeps saying they want peace, when have we ever truly had peace among us? What are we in the eyes of humans? We are lab rats, we are their weapons. Is this what peace should look like? Don't you think that such things should not happen again? Don't humans look down on mutants? Then let's make the most powerful people among humans become mutants, so that they can also experience our pain. Magneto stood next to the mutant converter and shouted at the mutants around him. Obviously, his mobilization work was very successful, and all the mutants were excited by his words, and the leaders of the countries trapped in the cage were so scared that they almost wet their pants. This made Sook, who was standing far away and watching all this, speechless. Can't they just start quickly? Soon, Magneto's mobilization work was finally completed. Then, he walked to the side of the machine and reached his hand into it. To transform humans into mutants, a powerful mutant is needed as an energy source, and Magneto is this energy source. The moment the switch was pressed, Magneto suddenly became a little weak. His life and abilities were instantly transferred to the sleeping Rogue through the machine. As more and more energy was transferred, Magneto became weaker, while the energy in Rogue became more and more. Soon, the converter began to condense a beam of strong radiation, and then shot it directly towards the humans trapped in the cage. Because they were all trapped in the cage, no one in the cage could avoid the incoming light. They could only huddle together and wait for the mutants' light to shine on them. Under the light, everyone felt the changes in their bodies. Their blood was burning and their internal organs were in pain as if they were torn apart. Ah, please let me go, I'll give you whatever you want. Kill me, please kill me, why do you do this to us? For a while, wailing sounds resounded throughout the entire cave. But no one paid any attention to them, and all the mutants looked at it coldly. After the transformation was completed, Magneto took his hand out of the machine. Then, his body shook and he almost couldn't stand. Fortunately, a mutant jumped up in time and supported him. Sook appeared next to the machine in a flash, and then reached out to test the little rascal's breathing. Fortunately, the breathing was stable and it didn't look like she was injured. Magneto didn't lie. Time is really a wonderful thing. Originally, in the current timeline, the little rascal should not have been born yet, but she still appeared in the mutant school. Similarly, this incident should have happened decades later, but it happened now. Obviously, Sook's arrival really changed a lot of things. Boss, you go and take a rest first, leave this to me. Looking at the weak-looking Magneto, Tiger said hurriedly. But at this time, Magneto waved his hand and said, no need. I must see the plan succeed with my own eyes, otherwise I will be worried. After hearing this, Tiger had no choice but to help Magneto walk to the iron cage. When he saw that those humans had begun to grow tentacles and scales, Magneto knew that his plan had succeeded. Pushing Tiger aside casually, Magneto was extremely excited at this moment. Success. He finally succeeded. He transformed all the leaders of more than 30 countries into mutants. I'm going to rest now. I'll leave this place to you. Remember, they are no longer human. Don't treat them the same way as before. Magneto suppressed his inner excitement and told Tiger beside him. I know what to do. Tiger nodded and said, then asked two mutants to carry the little rascal out and then sent him back to the room. Staring at the panicked people in the cage, Sook didn't know what to say for a moment, but the only thing he could be sure of was that the war between mutants and humans should be inevitable. Magneto knew this would be the result, but he still chose to do it. Obviously, the world will not be at peace again. Shaking his head slightly, Sook opened another space channel and returned to the mutant school. The next morning, Professor X's spirit was obviously restored. Then, after a simple preparation, under Sook's leadership, everyone came to Magneto's base again. However, with Sook's reminder before, Magneto had already made preparations. Therefore, when Professor X and others crossed the space channel, Magneto had already led everyone to wait on the other side. Eric, you, Charles, don't be angry, the people you want are here, take them back. When Professor X saw Magneto for the first time, he was ready to curse, but before he could curse, Magneto interrupted him, and then Tiger came over with a group of people. When he saw those people, Professor X was completely desperate. He didn't expect that he was still a step too late. Eric, you fool, do you know what you did? Professor X roared. Charles, you can say whatever you want, but you can't change this fact. Get ready, old friend, the war is coming soon, and I hope you will stand by my side. Magneto said calmly. In the end, the two sides did not take action, because everything had become a foregone conclusion, and even if they took action, they could not change anything. Moreover, they had more important things to deal with right now, which was how to resettle these humans who were transformed into mutants by Magneto. There were 30 national leaders who were transformed into mutants by Magneto, plus the security personnel and crew members on each plane, adding up to a total of 360 people, but those security personnel and crew members were not transformed into mutants by Magneto. Even so, all of them must be taken back to the mutant school. After all, this is Magneto's territory. In this way, the group returned to the mutant school in a mighty manner. Faced with such a situation, Professor X's head was about to explode. As soon as the 30 mutants arrived at the mutant school, they cried and shouted for Professor X to change them back, while the others cried and shouted to go home, making the entire mutant school restless. Then, everyone began to gather in Professor X's office to discuss countermeasures. Wolverine had the most violent temper and hated to hear people cry the most. He was the first to speak. Let's not talk about other things first, let's find a way to deal with these people first. Let the humans go home directly, and let the mutants be handled by S.H.I.E.L.D. No way, Hank objected directly, S.H.I.E.L.D. has always been in conflict with us, how can we hand them over to S.H.I.E.L.D.? I object. Wolverine rolled his eyes at Hank and said, Hank, you only know that they are mutants, but don't forget, these guys are leaders of more than 30 countries, do you think we can keep them? Hank's face turned red again when he heard this, and then he said, then. What if they get to S.H.I.E.L.D. and S.H.I.E.L.D. uses them for experiments? That's none of our business, they're not real mutants anyway. Logan said with disdain. Listening to the quarrel between Hank and Wolverine, Professor X felt a headache. Originally, transforming humans into mutants was not a bad thing. After all, as a mutant, he would have some superpowers that ordinary people could not imagine. Ordinary people would beg for it. However, if these humans were leaders of various countries, then this matter would only bring trouble. Professor X sighed again, then raised his head, looked at everyone and said, okay, stop arguing, it's useless to continue arguing, let's figure out how to deal with this matter. Eric has really caused us a huge trouble this time. This matter cannot be handled at all. The leaders of 30 countries, that is, 30 countries. We have offended 30 countries at once. I think we should run away as soon as possible. Maybe they are ready to bomb us now. Quicksilver said with a smile. Then, everyone looked at Quicksilver speechlessly. Hee, kidding, you guys chat, I'm going out first. Quicksilver flashed out immediately after realizing that the atmosphere was not right. Eric has done a lot of bad things before, but compared with this incident, those things he did before can be ignored. This guy is really crazy. Mystique sighed and said, feeling helpless. What Quicksilver said before was right. They have indeed offended more than 30 countries at once, and it is obvious that this incident will definitely become a fuse between humans and mutants, and there will never be peace between them and humans again. Seeing that everyone had a sad look on their faces, Suke was unusually relaxed at this moment, because he knew that the leaders of the 30 countries would soon kneel in front of him and call him Grandpa. If he guessed correctly, these humans who turned into mutants would die soon, and then only he could save them. Oh no, S.H.I.E.L.D. seems to be here. Then at this moment, Quicksilver, who had left before, suddenly appeared in the office again, and brought back a more annoying news. Professor X's head hurt even more. He originally planned to deal with this matter first and then notify S.H.I.E.L.D., but he didn't expect S.H.I.E.L.D. to come so soon. Soon, Nick Fury came to the mutant school with a team of fully armed special forces. Let the special forces wait outside. Nick Fury came to Professor X's office alone, and at this time, Professor X had asked everyone else to leave, leaving only Sook alone. Coming to the mutants' territory alone, it would be a lie to say that he was not nervous, but as the director of S.H.I.E.L.D., Nick Fury's mental quality is definitely strong, and he is sure that Professor X will not attack him. But when he saw Sook was also here, Nick Fury's heart jumped again. What he was most afraid of was that Sook would get involved with mutants, but he didn't expect that what he feared would come true. Nick, please take a seat. Seeing Nick Fury coming in, Professor X said politely. Nick Fury did not refuse, and then sat next to Sook. If I'm not mistaken, you should have found the missing people, right? Nick Fury said slowly. That's right, but, forget it, let me tell you. Seeing Professor X, seeming to be hesitant to speak, Sook interrupted him and said to Nick Fury next to him, yes, we did find those people, but it was a little too late when we found them. The leaders of 30 countries were all transformed into mutants by Magneto. What? When Nick Fury heard this, he stood up with a bang, his face full of disbelief. The leaders of more than 30 countries were transformed into mutants at once. What the hell is this? The President of the United States has been planning to contact various countries to suppress mutants recently, but the leaders of more than 30 countries were transformed into mutants at once. What should the President of the United States do? Is the President of the United States going to screw up? Where are those people now? Although Sook would not lie, the matter was serious, and Nick Fury felt that it was better to see it with his own eyes. Then, when Nick Fury saw those mutants, he almost poked out his other eye. He saw with his own eyes that the president of a certain country turned into a toad-like creature, the king of a certain country turned into a swamp monster-like creature, and the queen of a certain country grew a pair of butterfly wings. Finished. Everything is over. Now, the sky is falling. I know, this is exactly what gives me a headache. Professor X shook his head and said, the only thing I can think of now is to let Hank try to study drugs such as gene reversal, but this will take a long time and may not succeed. This won't do. Nick Fury refused directly. Those people are leaders of various countries. I can't keep them detained. I can't explain to their countries. And they are in the current state. I can't just let them leave. Otherwise, the world will be in chaos. Sook found it funny and felt that he needed to add fuel to the fire for Nick Fury and Professor X. He then said, as far as I know, you may not have much time. What does that mean? Hearing this, Nick Fury and Professor X looked at Sook at the same time and told them directly that the matter seemed to be even more serious. Sook did not keep the secret any longer and spoke directly. To put it simply, Magneto's forced gene conversion has a big flaw, and this flaw is fatal. I estimate that it will take at most 3 days for all the humans who were transformed into mutants by Magneto to die. All dead. The professor felt a black screen in front of his eyes and almost fell to the ground. Nick Fury's face turned pale and his body began to tremble. Although this incident was done by Magneto, at this moment, Nick Fury really wanted to kill all the mutants, because these guys are so good at causing trouble. 30 countries, either world powers or technologically advanced countries, let alone what would happen if they united, even any one of them could constrain the United States in some way. And if all the leaders of these countries really died in the United States, then there is no doubt that the Third World War would definitely break out. And this time, the United States is the target of all countries. It is worth mentioning that China has never been very interested in the United States, so it did not attend their meetings, but their younger brothers Japan and Han all came, and inadvertently, China escaped this disaster. Oh no, Professor, according to research, the human genes and mutant genes in the bodies of those humans who were transformed into mutants by Eric are repelling each other. If that happens, they will all die in 3 days at most. Then, as if to confirm what Sook had said before, Hank rushed in, looking nervous. It was obvious that he had also discovered this serious matter. Is there any way to save them? Before Professor X could answer, Nick Furious asked. No, and there is not enough time, we can't do anything. Hank said frustratedly, then turned and left again. The professor and Nick Fury were completely disappointed. But at this moment, Nick Fury suddenly thought of something, and then he looked towards Sook. Sook has always cared about mutants, because when he first came to Earth, it was the mutants who accepted him, and even his 2 women were mutants. There should be no reason for Suk to watch the mutants fall into war and do nothing, right? Besides, when Suk was talking to them just now, there was always a smile on his face, which suddenly ignited a glimmer of hope in Nick Fury's heart. Maybe Suk has a way. After all, he is an alien who is close to omnipotent. Thinking of this, Nick Fury didn't hesitate at all, and looked directly at Suk and said, "Mr. Suk, humans are powerless in this matter, so I want to ask you if there is any way to save them." "Yes," Suk said with a smile, looking nonchalant. Professor X and Nick Fury almost jumped up when they heard this. "What the hell? It turns out that you have always had a way. Why didn't you say it earlier, making us worried for so long?" With a complaint in his heart, Nick Fury hurriedly said, "Great, please help us." At the same time, Nick Fury and Professor X finally breathed a sigh of relief. In their opinion, this matter can finally be saved. But at this moment, Suk suddenly raised a strange smile on his lips, and then looked at Nick Fury and said, "But I have a question, that is, why should I help you? What does the life and death of those humans have to do with me?" Nick Fury's face froze, and then he forced a smile and said, "After all, this incident was caused by mutants. If those national leaders who were transformed into mutants by Magneto cannot be turned back into humans, I am afraid that humans all over the world will declare war on mutants. With me here, Nick, do you really think anyone can hurt mutants? Tony, Banner, or Thor?" Before Nick Fury could finish his words, Suk suddenly interrupted him. This time, Nick Fury was completely speechless, because it was obvious that Suk had decided to stand on the side of the mutants. In this case, if humans go to war with mutants again, it would be tantamount to seeking death. After all, Suk can destroy the planet at will. Then, Professor X couldn't stand it anymore and advised, "Suk, mutants are also a kind of human. We don't want to go to war with humans. If there is a way to save those who were hurt by Magneto, please save them. Professor, I have always been grateful for your help, so I will protect you, but please don't forget my identity. I am an alien. I have no responsibility or obligation to help humans. In the battle with the Sentinels, I destroyed countless planets with life, so I don't think I am a good person or a hero. Please don't misunderstand me." Suke said slowly, his voice was terribly cold. He was an alien. And a cruel alien. He helped to form the Avengers to fight Loki and his army just because he thought it was interesting. He helped mutants just because his 2 women were mutants. Just like he said, he has never been a good person or a hero. For a moment, Professor X and Nick Fury were silent again. But at this moment, Suke suddenly changed the subject and said, "But having said that, it's not impossible for me to help you, but I won't help you for free. I will only make a deal with you." Suke said, looking at Nick Fury again. "What deal? You tell me, as long as it is something I can do, I will definitely satisfy you." Without any hesitation, Nick Fury immediately promised. However, at this time, Suk shook his head slightly. "Nick, even if you are the director of S.H.I.E.L.D., your rank is too low. I don't want to talk to you. Let your president talk to me. Of course, remember to bring the leaders of those 30 countries with you, because this is a matter of their lives." Suk's words were somewhat sarcastic, but Nick Fury was not angry at all. In his opinion, as long as Suk was willing to help, it didn't matter even if he was pressed to the ground. "Okay, I will discuss this matter with Mr. President as soon as possible. I will inform you when I am ready." After Nick Fury said this, he left in a hurry. After all, the leaders of the 30 countries only had 3 days and there was no time to waste. As for the president, Nick Fury knew that he would agree, because if he didn't agree, the leaders of the other 30 countries would die. When the war came, he would become the sinner of the United States. The president was a smart man and he knew what to do. As for the deal that Suk wanted, it was actually very simple. He would help save all the humans who were transformed into mutants by Magneto, but the United States and those countries must agree to one of his conditions, AGCB, that is, to let mutants establish a country. Gather all the mutants, and then establish a country that belongs exclusively to mutants. Humans are not. Don't interfere in anything in the mutant country. The reason for doing so is, on the one hand, to help the mutants, and on the other hand, Suk wants to establish his own power. Although he is very strong now and can ignore any threats, you must know that the universe is very large, and there are countless planes of existence. Similarly, there are countless people stronger than him. Even as powerful as his brother Thanos is, he also has his own army. In this case, why can't he have his own army? The power possessed by humans is too weak, and Sook doesn't consider them at all. Mutants are Sook's best choice. The relationship between mutants and humans is already in jeopardy. If things don't go as planned, a war will break out. At this time, if Sook can save them and let them have their own power, they don't have to worry about being hunted down. Don't worry about being caught and taken to the laboratory for experiments. There is no doubt that Sook will definitely become the leader of mutants. At that time, all mutants will become Sook's army. No matter what, Sook knows that Thanos will always come to Earth. Although he has already obtained 3 Infinity Stones, it seems that Thanos cannot gather all the Infinity Stones, but don't forget that in addition to the Infinity Stones, Thanos also has a special power. The Heart of the Universe. Although it is not certain whether Thanos has obtained the Heart of the Universe now, Sook must be prepared now. Thanos is definitely his, but Sook decided to hand over those small fish under Thanos to his own mutant army to deal with. Of course, the Avengers will definitely come to help. So far, everything is under Sook's control. Thinking of this, Sook's mouth showed a hint of smile again. Then, Sook did not stay in the mutant school, but went directly back to the villa in New York. Of course, he did not reveal the news to Professor X, because with Professor X's temperament, Sook knew that he would definitely say something again. Let's tell them about this matter after it is done. Time passed quickly, and it was evening in a blink of an eye. After a day of hard work, Sook was really a little tired. Sure enough, Titans don't need to rest. Holding Emma in his arms, Sook suddenly thought of something, and then asked softly, "Emma, do you think it would be a good thing for you if mutants were to establish a country?" Establish a country. Emma's eyes were confused when she heard this, and she didn't seem to understand what this meant. Suke smiled helplessly and explained, "To put it simply, it is to gather all mutants together, and then establish a country that belongs exclusively to mutants. Humans are not allowed to interfere in anything in the mutant country. Mutants have the right to decide all matters in their own country. It's just like the human country, except that humans are replaced by mutants." This time, Emma finally understood, but then she looked at Suke speechlessly and said, "Okay, but this kind of thing is really impossible. Humans themselves are afraid of mutants. How can they let us establish our own country? That's not." Just as she said this, Emma suddenly thought of something, and then looked at Suke in disbelief and said, "Wait a minute. What do you mean by that? Do you want to help us build a country?" During the time she spent with Suke, Emma knew that Suke would not talk about something for no reason, so she immediately guessed what Suke was thinking. This little girl is really smart. With a slight smile, Suke said, "I do have this plan at the moment, but the specific situation will have to be discussed later. If there are no accidents, I think this thing will definitely work." Sure enough, when Emma heard this, her excitement was simply indescribable. After all, as a mutant, how could she not want to have her own country? "You are so nice." Emma blew softly in Suke's ear, and suddenly she went into the quilt with a red face. It was obvious that she wanted to reward Suke. Soon, the wolf in Suke's heart appeared again. When Nick Fury left the mutant school, he took away the 30 national leaders who had become mutants, as well as their security personnel and flight attendants. Although he didn't know how Nick Fury arranged them, Sook didn't find similar reports when he checked the news the next morning. Sook knew that it seemed that S.H.I.E.L.D. and the United States were preparing to conceal this matter. But of course, for him, this would not affect his plan, because paper cannot cover fire. Nick Fury was very efficient. At noon the next day, Sook received a call from Nick Fury, saying that he was ready and the president had arrived, just waiting for Sook. Without the slightest hesitation, Sook opened a space channel and appeared in S.H.I.E.L.D. At this time, the faces of the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents were a little weird. Obviously, they already knew about the 30 mutants. Then, in an office, Sook finally met the President of the United States, and of course the other 30 national leaders who had been transformed into mutants by Magneto. Although he knew that the mutants around him were once humans, the President of the United States still felt very uncomfortable sitting among them, especially the guy with a toad face. He wanted to vomit at the first sight of him. But at this moment, he could only hold it in. Seeing Sook coming in, Nick Fury hurriedly introduced everyone. Everyone, please look, this is the person who can help you turn back into humans and save your lives. His name is Sook. When they heard this, everyone present stood up all of a sudden. Even the President of the United States was no exception, because the President of the United States already knew Sook's true identity from the previous New York report. He knew that Sook must not be offended. As for the others, they knew that their lives and deaths were in Sook's hands at the moment, so naturally they did not dare to neglect him in the slightest. Faced with such a situation, Sook only felt amused in his heart, but then he waved his hand for everyone to sit down, and then sat down in the most conspicuous seat. Then, the meeting began. Mr. Sook, as you wish, I have invited the President of the United States and leaders of 30 countries here. Please discuss any deal you want to discuss. Nick Fury said to Sook respectfully. This matter is serious, he had to be cautious. And he was really a little worried. What if someone among these people said something unpleasant and was killed by Sook? Based on his understanding of Sook, this kind of thing is still very likely to happen. After nodding slightly, Suke slowly said, I don't like nonsense, so I'll get straight to the point. To put it simply, I can indeed save you, but this is conditional. No problem, no matter what conditions you have, I will agree to them. I just ask you to save me. As soon as Suke finished speaking, the guy with a toad face stood up all of a sudden, and then hurriedly vowed. Among these people, he became the ugliest. If he hadn't heard Nick Fury say that someone could turn them back into humans, he would have committed suicide long ago. So in his opinion, no matter what requirements or conditions Suke had, he would definitely meet them. Very good. Nodding slightly, Suke continued. The content of the transaction is very simple. I will save you, but you must agree to let mutants establish their own country, and humans must not interfere in anything in the mutant country. Mutants have the right to decide all matters in their own country. At the same time, all mutants who are detained and used as experimental subjects in the country must be released. And give them equal treatment. What? When hearing this, not to mention that the other people present were a little confused, even Nick Fury was the same. He never thought that Suke would actually propose such a deal. I object. Then, the US President was the first to object. I can agree to everything else, but I won't agree to this one thing. The damage that mutants have caused to the United States is incalculable. Let them establish their own country. And give them equal treatment. No, I can't do it. Although mutants are distributed all over the world, most of them are concentrated in the United States. Similarly, the damage to the United States is the greatest. So when the President of the United States heard this, he refused without hesitation. In his opinion, even if he refused, he would not be the one to die. Anyway, he would never let mutants establish a country. With the refusal of the President of the United States, other people began to talk about it, and most of them were against Sook's deal. No, mutants have always been a threat, and if they were allowed to gather together and form a nation, they might destroy us. Yes, mutants are too powerful to be allowed to establish a country. But if we don't agree, we will die. Hearing that everyone else seemed to be on his side, the US President was really very proud at the moment. In his opinion, since so many people disagreed with this matter, Suke would definitely change to another deal. But it was obvious that he was overthinking. Suke, on the other hand, sat in his seat, watching the group of clowns discussing and communicating with each other. They probably didn't expect that Suke didn't give them a chance to refuse at the very beginning. They only had two choices, one was to agree, and the other was to die. As for the President of the United States, in Suke's opinion, this guy was just courting death. Boom boom boom. He tapped the table lightly with his hand, signaling everyone to be quiet, and then Suke slowly said, Okay, now I need an answer. The President of the United States stood up first, and said with a righteous look on his face, I will not agree to this matter, The US President had just finished speaking when he suddenly felt a flash in front of his eyes, and then he flew backwards. Then, he began to have difficulty breathing, and the temperature around him suddenly became extremely cold. At the same time, the other people present were also completely stunned. What did they see? They saw that where the US president had been sitting before, a space channel suddenly appeared, and at the other end of the space channel, there was space. And the US president was floating in space at this moment. Seeing this, Nick Fury cursed in his heart. Then, without any hesitation, Nick Fury came to Suke and said nervously, "Mr. Suke, don't be angry, Mr. President is just upset for a while. Just give him some time, believe me, he will agree. You don't have to kill him, give him another chance." Although Nick Fury didn't quite agree to let mutants establish a country, it was obvious that he was more afraid that Suk would kill everyone here. If that were the case, Suk would be completely hostile to humans. If he got mad, maybe he would, and exterminate humans without waiting for the mutants to take action. Suke ignored Nick Fury and walked to the space channel. He smiled and said to everyone, "I'm sorry. I didn't make it clear. You have no right to refuse me. You have no right to bargain. You only have two choices. Either agree or die." After saying this, Suke snapped his fingers. Then, the President of the United States fell from the space channel again, trembling all over. Although he only stayed in space for less than 10 seconds, for him, these 10 seconds were almost like a lifetime. After a short rescue, the US president finally returned to normal, but he couldn't help trembling all over. Walking behind the crowd with his hands behind his back, Suke said slowly, "All of you are presidents, queens or kings of a country. Maybe in your eyes, your life is very precious, but in my eyes, it is worthless. Believe me, I don't care about your life or death at all. Of course, don't think that the world will stop functioning if you die. Think carefully about how many people in your country are eager to take your place. I'm afraid you can't even count them, right? If the president is gone, just elect another one. If the queen is gone, there is another queen. The king is even simpler. Your son can directly take your place. Tell me, are you really important?" As soon as these words came out, everyone fell silent again. Because they found that Suke was right, they were not the only capable people. As long as the subjects of their country were willing, there would be another person to replace them immediately. Although agreeing to the mutants establishing a nation is a very bad decision, it is the only way for me to survive. Well, my patience is limited, I don't want to wait any longer, I need you to give me an answer now, agree or die. Then, Suke suddenly spoke again. "I agree." As soon as Suke finished speaking, a voice rang out. Look, it was the US president who had just opposed it. Seeing that the US president had agreed, why wouldn't the leaders of other countries agree? I agree, me too. Soon, everyone present agreed to Suk's deal, and the plan went surprisingly smoothly. Looking at this scene, Nick Fury could only shake his head helplessly, because he didn't know what the world would look like in the future. But of course, this is not completely without benefits. At least for a long time, there will be no more wars between mutants and humans. For Suk, the verbal promises of these guys were obviously not enough. At his suggestion, Nick Fury quickly put together a document similar to a contract. This document was not formal, but the conditions in it were chilling. The most cruel one was that if the promised things were not completed, Suk would personally destroy them and their country. Everyone signed the document tremblingly. After everyone present signed the document, Nick Fury forced a smile, then handed the document in his hand to Suke and said, "Everyone has signed it, do you want to check it?" "No need." Suke waved his hand and said, "If someone regrets, the worst that can happen is that the country will be destroyed, hee. Nick Fury smiled awkwardly. He really didn't know what to say. Anyway, the matter has come to a successful conclusion. The next step is to wait for Suke to restore those humans who were transformed into mutants by Magneto to normal. And this is when the time stone will show its power. Adjust the time on the time stone back to the time before these people became mutants, and then gently move them. In an instant, everyone returns to normal. This is the end. When Nick Fury saw this scene, he almost vomited blood. He thought it must be a very troublesome and complicated matter, but he didn't expect that Suke could turn these people back to human beings so easily. Nick Fury suddenly felt that everyone was calculated by Suke. The leaders of more than 30 countries returned to normal in an instant, and the first thing they did was to rush back to their own countries. After all, They did not forget the unequal document they had signed before. No one doubted Sook's power, because they were not stupid. They had already noticed from Sook's previous actions that Sook could not only control space, but also time. With such power, there was nothing he couldn't do in this world. Some even suspected that Sook was a god. In any case, Sook's goal had been achieved. Those present, including the President of the United States, all major countries agreed to the establishment of a mutant nation. As for those who did not come, Sook believed that with the establishment of a mutant nation, they would also compromise. And he believed that no one would dare to disobey him, because the consequences of disobeying him would be very tragic. The matter of mutants has finally come to an end. This time, Professor X did not give Magneto face. Not only did he forbid him from entering the mutant school, but the X-Men were also fully armed. Everyone stared at Magneto and his mutant fraternity members with resentment. Charles, don't get me wrong, I'm not here to fight. Magneto signaled the fraternity members behind him not to act rashly, and said to Professor X. Bullshit. Eric, you guy, do you know what you have done? Not only did you kidnap the leaders of 30 countries, you even killed them. You pushed all of us into a dead end. Is this the result you want? Professor X was so angry that he cursed directly. But when he heard this, Magneto was at a loss. What are you talking about? I just turned them into mutants, I didn't kill them. Idiot, do you think gene reversal is so easy? Let me tell you, their transformation into mutants is only temporary. After 3 days, all of them will die, and it's all thanks to you. Congratulations, Eric, you can finally bring the war to us. At the end, Professor X was about to roar. When Magneto heard this, he fell silent, because to be honest, he didn't know that the mutant converter had such a defect, but it seemed that it was useless to say these things now. Forget it, let them die. Anyway, these guys were not mutants originally. Charles, no matter how much you hate me or scold me, it can't change the fact that humans and mutants are about to go to war. At this point, do you think the things between us are still important? If you don't want our people to be completely wiped out by humans, then we must cooperate. Only if we cooperate can we defeat humans. Magneto looked at Professor X with a firm face. Professor X gnashed his teeth in hatred. Although he and Magneto were both mutants, their personality ideals were completely opposite. Magneto was a radical who believed that humans could not coexist with mutants, so he always wanted to lead mutants to defeat humans. But he didn't think so. He always believed that humans and mutants could coexist. However, with Magneto's plans again and again, the conflict between humans and mutants became more and more tense, until now it has reached an irreversible point. Although the X-Police did not do anything to harm humans, in the eyes of humans, they are also mutants, mutants like Magneto. No matter how many good things they do, humans will still regard them and Magneto together. This made him very annoyed. Although he knew that the relationship with humans had been restored, Professor X still could not accept declaring war on humans with Magneto, because there were hundreds of students in his school, and their youngest was only 7 or 8 years old. They should not be involved in the war. Professor, stop talking nonsense, let's fight back. Wolverine said viciously, showing his steel claws. Although he was no match for Magneto, as a member of the X-Men, how could he be absent from such a thing? Then, Mystique also stood up. Eric, take your people back, we will not cooperate with you. Magneto shook his head helplessly and said, Raven, I thought you should understand me. No one will understand you. Eric, you are too crazy, it is you who pushed us to the brink of extinction. If one day we are all extinct, then remember that all this is your responsibility. Mystique said with a hint of sadness. Obviously, he also thought that Magneto's move this time was too crazy. Eric, I'll say it one last time, go, take your people away from here, or I promise you, I will show no mercy. Professor X said, and then he was ready to use his telepathic ability. Then, Wolverine, Hank, Mystique, Jean, Cyclops, Wanda, and Iceman, Colossus, and Rogue, who had just rushed back from outside, all entered the combat state. As an old friend of Professor X, Magneto knew clearly how powerful Professor X was, but he was unwilling to leave him like this. He didn't understand why Professor X was still unwilling to cooperate with him at this point. I won't leave like this. Charles, we must cooperate. Just for our people. Magneto rejected Professor X word by word. Then, all the mutants in the Brotherhood of Mutants also entered the battle state. For a moment, the atmosphere became a little tense, and danger was imminent. But at this moment, a space passage suddenly appeared between the two groups of people, and then a familiar figure walked out. It was Suke. After stepping through the space passage and seeing the scene in front of him, Suke was speechless. "What are you doing?" Suke looked around Professor X and Magneto and asked. "I came to discuss something with Charles, but he doesn't want to discuss it with me at all," Magneto said slowly while signaling the mutants behind him not to act rashly. His Brotherhood of Mutants is made up entirely of mutants, with a number of about thousands. Relying on such strength, Magneto has never taken anyone seriously, but it is obvious that Suke is an exception. As long as Suke is willing, he can kill all mutants in an instant. This is exactly what Magneto is worried about. On the other side, Professor X still yelled at Magneto, "Eric, I will not cooperate with you, you guy, this is all your fault." "Hey," sighing slightly, Suke said speechlessly again, "Please, don't you guys watch TV? If you watched today's news, there wouldn't be so many troubles." Not long after, in Professor X's office, everyone crowded together and stared at the TV in front of them, and what was being broadcast on TV was news about mutants. According to the latest instructions issued by the President, the previously designated Mutant Registration Act is very inhumane, which seriously damages the privacy of mutants. Therefore, the President announced this morning that the Mutant Registration Act will be completely abolished and called on the public to treat mutants correctly. 30 countries, including the United States, all issued a new directive on mutants today, requiring them to be treated rationally. Countries have also begun to release detained mutants and crack down on such inhumane practices as using mutants for experiments. The President of the United States proposed that since there were so many conflicts between humans and mutants, he suggested that a country exclusively for mutants be established. This proposal was also supported by more than 30 countries. Then, the scene changed and the President of the United States appeared on the TV. "A long time ago, we thought that mutants were a threat. Yes, some of them did do a lot of bad things, but this does not represent all of them. Like humans, mutants also have good and bad ones. Under the leadership of mutant Professor Charles, the mutant hero Team X-Men has saved countless human lives more than once. So here, I call on everyone to treat mutants correctly. The news is almost over here, but at this moment, everyone is confused. Did I hear it wrong? Or am I dreaming? The President of the United States actually called us heroes." Wolverine shook his head, looking incredulous. "I think it might be a dream. Mutants founded a nation. How could such an outrageous thing happen? Is it possible that this is a conspiracy?" Hank was also incredulous. "You know, humans have always had a bad attitude towards mutants. Magneto kidnapped the human leader before. In this case, it's good enough that humans don't come to hunt them down. They even help them build a country. What a joke." Then, Professor X and Magneto looked at each other, and both of them were dazed, because they knew that this was real. Turning his gaze to Suke, Professor X could not suppress his inner excitement and asked tremblingly, What is going on? Is this something you did?" With a slight smile, Suke said, "Yes, I made a deal with the leaders of 30 countries using their lives. The content of the deal is to revoke the Mutant Registration Bill and help mutants establish a nation. What you saw just now is true. These are the documents signed by the presidents of various countries. Take a look," Suke said, and then handed the documents signed by the leaders to Professor X. In an instant, Professor X was surrounded by everyone, and everyone stared at the documents in his hands with wide eyes. Then, the air suddenly solidified again. Ha 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 ha. After a while, someone suddenly laughed, and the atmosphere in the whole office suddenly exploded. Hank hugged Wolverine next to him, patted him madly and said, "This is true. This is true. This is actually true. We will have our own home soon." Although he was speechless because of Hank, at this moment, Wolverine also showed a relieved smile on his face. Colossus excitedly hugged Iceman and almost crushed him. Jean came to Suke with excitement, and then cried in his arms. "Thank you." Outside the house, after hearing the news, the mutants brought by Magneto were a little confused at first, and then they began to celebrate, scaring the children in the mutant school to tears. For a moment, the joy of victory filled the entire mutant school. Okay, everyone, go out, we still have something to discuss. Hank, remember to help me entertain those people that Eric brought. Then, Professor X seemed to have thought of something, and then instructed Hank, who was excited on the side. Professor, don't worry, I know what to do. Hank agreed with a smile and then walked out. Soon, others also walked out one after another, but when they went out, everyone was excited. Today is the most memorable day for all mutants. After everyone left, Magneto looked at Sook and said with a wry smile, "So, you were just using me before." "Not entirely," Sook smiled and said, "but this matter would not have been so smooth without your cooperation." Hearing the conversation between Magneto and Sook, Professor X felt confused, but soon, he didn't care, because this kind of thing is no longer important. What is Magneto and all his efforts for? Isn't it to allow mutants to obtain proper treatment and rights? And with the establishment of the mutant nation, all their efforts will be realized. Professor X looked at Sook excitedly, but he couldn't say the words of thanks he had just thought of. After a long while, he could only say 3 words. "Thank you. Okay, I'm not doing this for you 2 old guys, I'm just doing this for Jean and those beautiful mutant beauties. Don't keep thinking about thanking me, but think about what to do next. I don't know anything about building a country, so it's up to you guys to do it next." After saying this with a smile, Sook walked out without waiting for Professor X and Magneto to say anything. For a moment, only Magneto and Professor X were left in the office. They looked at each other and laughed. The grievances of more than 10 years disappeared without a trace in this smile. "Charles, now that things have come to this, I think I can finally retire, and the next thing will be left to you. I think I should try to be a father," Magneto said with a wry smile. Sook's action ended his life struggle in an instant, which made him a little unacceptable. But wasn't it the same for Professor X? This sudden news also completely disrupted his life, making him also a little confused and at a loss. But after being confused, Professor X said with a hint of ridicule, "Eric, don't think about running away. Although what we have worked hard for a lifetime is over, you still have things to do. Based on your ability, I think it would be a good idea to let you be a builder." Looking at this lifelong friend, Magneto smiled helplessly. In the next few days, everyone in the mutant school started to get busy. They had to attend various meetings held in the United States and receive mutants detained by various countries. Even Jean and Wanda transformed into diplomats to negotiate with various countries. Of course, Emma, who lives in New York City, was not idle either. She also began to contact the mutants in New York City to return to the mutant school and wait for the next instructions from Professor X. In general, the mutants have been very busy recently. But of course, despite being busy, Jean and Emma did not forget to reward Sook, which he benefited a lot. At the same time, in a remote church, a group of people dressed very strangely were gathering here. "How is it? Nothing unexpected happened?" a very tall man in the church whispered. Soon, a man replied, "Don't worry, Cassius, we have found a way to lure away Ancient One. She has other things to do now and has no time to find us." "Very good." Silius nodded first, and then told everyone, "Listen carefully, before Lord Dormammu arrives, no one can relax, and we must not let the Ancient One destroy our operations." "Got it." As soon as he finished speaking, everyone agreed with a firm look on their faces. Then, everyone picked up the knife in front of them, and cut their wrists, letting the blood flow into the bowl in the middle. This is dark magic, magic that can communicate with Dormammu. After the bloodletting, everyone began to chant the spell. After the spell was finished, Cassius felt that the scene in front of him suddenly changed. When he opened his eyes again, he had appeared in a special dimension, and in front of him was a giant monster as big as a planet. When he saw the monster for the first time, Cassius knelt on one knee and said respectfully, "Lord Dormammu, my name is Cassius, your most loyal servant, I will welcome you on Earth." "Cassius, why did you come to see me? What do you want?" Dormammu asked, and the whole space shook. "I want eternal life," Cassius said enthusiastically, not hiding his purpose at all. "Very good. I will give you eternal life and everything you want, but before that, you must help me invade the Earth, understand?" Dormammu said in a deep voice. Caecilius's request was not worth mentioning in Dormammu's view, and Dormammu had already discovered that Caecilius's soul had fallen into darkness, so Dormammu directly agreed to Caecilius. I understand, my master, please tell me, what should we do? Caecilius asked. There are 3 temples on Earth. Because of the existence of these 3 temples, I cannot appear on Earth. What you have to do is very simple, destroy the 3 temples. When I come to Earth, I will not only give you endless life, but also give you more powerful power. Dormammu said. Caecilius was delighted, and immediately said fanatically, Master, I understand, you just wait for our good news. Then, the picture flashed again, and Caecilius returned to the church. Although he spent a lot of time talking with Dormammu, because of the difference in space, only 1 second passed in reality. Boss, what's going on? A believer asked excitedly. Caecilius said in a deep voice, Lord Dormammu has agreed to us, but before that, we have to help Lord Dormammu invade the Earth first. So where are we going now? Someone asked. London Temple. After saying this with a cold look in his eyes, Caecilius began to lead his followers towards the London Temple. Soon, Kamar Taj. Oh no, Supreme Mage, we just received news from the London Temple that Caecilius has attacked them. The situation is very dangerous, we must provide support immediately. A monk hurriedly pushed open the door of Ji Yuyi's room and said nervously. What? Ji Yuyi's face changed. He didn't expect Caecilius to attack so quickly. He didn't expect that Suke was right. The first to be attacked was the London Temple. Oh no, Sorcerer Supreme, we just received news from another dimension, saying that Dormammu's men are carrying out a massacre there, and many people have died. They ask for your help. What's going on? When Ancient One heard this, he became even more anxious. If he guessed correctly, this must be a plan of Dormammu and Caecilius. If he went to the London Temple, he would not be able to save the people in another dimension. If he went to save the people in another dimension, he would not be able to stop Caecilius. Then, Ancient One suddenly thought of something, and then ordered Baron Mordo on the side. Mordo, I will go to another dimension to save people first, you tell Mr. Sook about this immediately, he knows what to do. As the supreme sorcerer on Earth, saving people always comes first. After saying this, Ancient One immediately opened a passage and left. Ancient One did not forget the deal he had made with Sook. Then, Baron Mordo did not hesitate and directly opened the portal and came to the door of Sook's house. Caecilius was an extremely powerful guy, and even Ancient One was not sure he could take him down, so Baron Mordo naturally did not want to die. But then, just as he was about to knock on the door in front of him suddenly opened, and Sook walked out. Mr. Sook, stop talking, I know everything. Before Baron Mordo could finish his words, Sook stopped him. As early as this morning, Sook noticed that the time on Earth had become a little unstable, as if something was trying to squeeze in. After a careful investigation, he discovered that it was Dormammu who was coming. Dormammu's arrival made Sook speechless, because it was obvious that Dormammu came a little too early, and at this time, Doctor Strange was just an apprentice of a magician. Although it was a bit speechless, but since he was here, Sook didn't mind getting rid of this guy Dormammu as soon as possible. Then, a space channel opened, and Sook brought Baron Mordo to the London Temple. As soon as they appeared, bursts of roaring sounds rang out. Sook took a closer look and found that there was a fierce fight inside. All the magicians were not the opponents of Caecilius. They were simply being suppressed by Caecilius at the moment. Sook took a closer look and did not see the figure of Ancient One. Then he looked at Baron Mordo beside him with some curiosity and said, "Where is Ancient One?" Dormammu seemed to have discussed with Caecilius. When Caecilius attacked London, Dormammu's army also launched an attack on another place, and this place was also within our protection range, so the Supreme Sorcerer rushed there. Baron Mordo said nervously, "Oh my god, is Dormammu trying to lure the tiger away from the mountain?" Sook found it a little funny. At this time, there were still magicians coming from all over to join the ranks of protecting the temple, but it was obvious that they were no match for Caecilius and his followers. When Caecilius was fighting, a dark force that was imperceptible to the naked eye would appear around his body. It was this power that made him look even more powerful. But obviously, this power was not enough in Sook's eyes, and at this time, Sook was too lazy to even use the power of the time stone. Baron Mordo flashed and suddenly saw a blur in front of his eyes. Then Sook disappeared from his sight. At the same time, Cassius, who was fighting, felt a murderous intent coming from behind him. His heart tightened and he immediately condensed a magic shield to block it. Boom! With a loud bang, the magic shield in Cassius' hand was instantly shattered, and even Cassius was knocked dozens of meters away. Seeing this, the other followers dared not stay at all. They gave up the fight and quickly gathered around Cassius. After finally getting up, Cassius looked at Sook in surprise and said, "Who are you?" The power of the punch just now made Cassius feel the fear of death. If he hadn't condensed the magic shield at that time, he would have died by now. Sook smiled and said, "Do you think I need to say anything to a dying person? Anyway, it doesn't make any sense. I'm sorry, since you are here, don't even think about leaving." As soon as the voice fell, Sook suddenly dodged again, and then appeared behind Cassius, and suddenly pinched Cassius' neck. With a little force in his hand, Cassius' neck was immediately twisted by Sook. But at this moment, Sook was shocked to find that the person in his hand was not Cassius, but a follower of Cassius. What is this? A substitute technique. Shaking his head helplessly, Sook threw the corpse out, and then looked at the group of Cassius followers next to him. Then, he saw that those guys had opened a series of channels similar to broken mirrors and were jumping in one after another. Obviously, Cassius is ready to escape. But Sook will not give him a chance to escape. Gently raising his right hand, a green magic circle suddenly appeared in Sook's hand. He quickly flicked the magic circle, and then Sook waved to Cassius. In an instant, the power of the time gem began to cover this space. The time began to flow backwards. Caecilius and his followers who had escaped before ran out of the passage one by one and stopped beside Sook. This time, Sook did not take action again, but used the time gem to stop them all. Sook did not reverse the time of the entire earth, so when he did these things, other magicians saw it, which made them almost unbelievable. Then at this moment, another portal appeared, and then Ancient One came out. When he saw the scene in front of him, Ancient One was relieved. It was obvious that Sook kept his promise. But at this time, Sook was too lazy to pay attention to Ancient One. His eyes were on Caecilius. Because Sook suddenly thought that it seemed that he should not stop Caecilius from destroying the 3 temples on the earth. Because only when the temples were destroyed, Dormammu would come, and he could defeat Dormammu. Just thinking about it. Ancient One came over. Looking at Caecilius in front of her, she breathed a sigh of relief and said, "Fortunately, he didn't succeed." Sook shook his head and said, "Actually, we shouldn't have stopped him just now, because Dormammu will only come to the earth if the temple is destroyed, and only then can I defeat him." Ancient One was silent at first, and then he slowly asked, "Do you really have a way to defeat Dormammu? If you are sure, I can help you." Sook heard this, and then asked curiously, "What do you mean?" "The defense mechanism of the 3 temples can be shut down. As long as the defense mechanism is shut down, these 3 temples will be no different from ordinary buildings, and Dormammu will also come to the earth at that time." Ancient One said again. Sook smiled slightly. He didn't expect that this temple actually had something similar to the beginning. Then, without any hesitation, Sook nodded to Ancient One and said, "Go and shut down the defense mechanism of the 3 temples. Leave the rest to me." "What about them?" Ji Yuyi pointed at Cassius and others who were stilled by Suke and asked, with some reluctance in his eyes. "Aren't they all serving Dormammu? Well then, I'll give them to Dormammu as gifts." Sook sneered. Under Sook's assurance, Ancient One did not hesitate any longer and directly issued an order to close the 3 temples. Soon, the defense mechanisms of the 3 temples disappeared completely. At the same time, Dormammu, who was quietly waiting in the dark dimension, also discovered this, which made him extremely excited. "My servants, you really did not disappoint me." Swaying his huge body, Dormammu began to break through layers of dimensions, and then attack the Earth directly. It is worth mentioning that the place where he landed was not New York, nor London, but Hong Kong. A space channel opened, and Sook and others instantly appeared in Hong Kong. Looking up, Sook saw that at this moment, the sky had been broken and was completely shrouded by layers of darkness. In the darkness, a huge figure was slowly approaching the earth. But of course, this is just an illusion. You must know that Dormammu's speed at this moment is almost close to the speed of light. The reason why it looks slow is just because he needs to break through the dimension. Dormammu's size is comparable to a planet. If he is allowed to completely descend on the earth, it will definitely cause incalculable deaths, so immediately afterwards, Sook began to prepare for action. Ding! Realizing that Dormammu is about to invade the earth, a side quest is now being issued. Stop Dormammu from invading the earth. Mission reward: 200,000 villain points, 1 chance to draw a prize. Then at this moment, the system's voice rang in Sooke's mind again. This made Sooke speechless. The system really knows how to choose the time. Ji Yi, I leave this to you. He greeted Ji Yi, and created an energy shield to wrap up Cassius and others. Sooke then took them to the sky. After flying to a certain height, Sooke punched the air directly, and suddenly opened a space channel leading to Dormammu. Without the slightest hesitation, Sooke rushed in. The further he went, the more Sooke felt the pressure brought by this space. It was a dark, negative special force that made him feel very uncomfortable, but of course, it was only a moment, and Sooke had already gotten used to this feeling. Who are you? How dare you come in front of me? I don't know how long they flew. A sound like thunder suddenly rang out in the entire dark dimension, shaking people's ears. Looking up, Sooke saw a huge monster floating in the dark dimension, and around him were planets of varying sizes. In comparison, Sooke felt that he had underestimated Dormammu, because this guy's body was much larger than a planet. Dormammu, you don't need to know who I am now. After I defeat you, you will naturally know my name. Here, this is a gift for you. Sook said, and threw Cassius and others to Dormammu, and at the same time lifted the time freeze on them. Dormammu is not a fool. Seeing this, he has understood that Cassius and others should have failed, and the reason why he can still come here is entirely because of the man in front of him. Owner. On the other side, when they saw Dormammu, Cassius and others couldn't help but cheer. But it was obvious that in Dormammu's eyes, these guys were losers. A bunch of trash. I don't need a bunch of trash to be my servants. With a roar, Dormammu opened his mouth wide, sucked Cassius and others into his mouth, and then swallowed them alive. Cassius and others didn't expect Dormammu to treat them like this, but by the time they reacted, it was a little too late, because Dormammu had eaten all of them. I didn't expect this. These guys have been working for you all the time, but you treat them like this. Sook said with a hint of sarcasm. If you want to be my servant, you can't fail. I won't tolerate failure. Of course, there are bugs standing in front of me. After saying this, Dormammu suddenly opened his mouth again, and then a large amount of dark energy containing the power of destruction shot directly towards Sook. Go to hell, Ant. Seeing this, Sook just sneered, then raised his right hand, and saw that the dark energy was completely absorbed into Sook's body when it approached Sook, without hurting Sook at all. For a moment, Dormammu began to become curious, staring at Sook for a while, and then he said with some surprise, I didn't expect that you would be a Titan. No wonder you have such powerful abilities. Titan, if you are willing to submit to me and be my servant, I will spare you and give you more powerful power. Be your servant. Dormammu, I think you are still asleep, right? How can you say such a thing? I am here to defeat you today. Why are you talking so much nonsense? Sook sneered, and then condensed the power he had absorbed before into a huge energy ball, and then suddenly shot it towards Dormammu. Dormammu was so huge that he almost filled the entire space, which meant that he could not avoid Sook's attack. Although Sook's attack did not cause any harm to him, Dormammu was annoyed when he thought that the energy Sook used to attack him was absorbed from himself. Humble insect, since you are unwilling to surrender, then you will die. With another roar, Dormammu opened his mouth wide, and countless black spears poured out of his mouth and shot directly at Sook. Obviously, after knowing that Sook could absorb energy, Dormammu changed his attack method. But Sook was well prepared. Just when these spears were about to shoot at him, he suddenly had an idea, and then opened a space channel in front of him, and then opened another space channel in front of Dormammu. Countless spears shot into the space channel in front of Sook, and then shot out from the space channel in front of Dormammu, all drilling into Dormammu's body. Ah, you lowly thing, how dare you treat me like this? I have changed my mind now. I will not kill you. I will imprison you in eternal darkness and let you suffer forever. Dormammu roared to the sky. It was obvious that Sook's behavior had completely annoyed him. However, facing Dormammu's roar, Sook just wanted to laugh. You're bragging so much, why don't you show us some real skills? Dormammu, don't think you're great just because you came from the dark dimension. Let me tell you, there are many beings in this world that are more powerful than you. Don't you always think you are very powerful? Come on, try my power of 1,000,000 star explosions. Sook said with a sneer, and then flew to Dormammu at lightning speed. Then, an incredibly powerful energy exploded directly in front of Dormammu, and instantly blew Dormammu's illusory body to pieces. But it was obvious that this could not hurt Dormammu, because Dormammu had no entity at all. After recondensing his body, Dormammu couldn't help laughing wildly, ha 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 ha. A lowly thing, actually used self-destruction to launch an attack. Now I don't even need to take action. As soon as he said this, Dormammu's huge face froze instantly, and then he looked in front of him with an incredible look. What did he see? He saw that Sook was still standing in front of him, and he was not hurt at all. What's going on? Dormammu was a little confused. Don't worry, Dormammu, it's too early to be confused now. What was just now was the power of a star explosion. Now I'll let you taste the power of 100 stars exploding. Sook sneered, and the energy in his body burst out again. Boom! The power of the explosion of 100 stars instantly destroyed everything in the dark dimension, even Dormammu's body. But then, Dormammu's body condensed again. From his tone, Sook knew that this guy was about to go crazy. When Dormammu condensed his body again, Sook said again, this time it's 1,000. Boom! This time it's 10,000. Boom! Stop now, what are you doing? You can't kill me like this, what are you doing? When Sook began to use the power of the explosion of 100,000 stars, Dormammu was almost driven crazy. Although Sook's actions could not kill him, he felt very aggrieved if he continued like this. As a lord of the dark dimension, he was actually infinitely blasted by others. He had no place to put his old face. What, didn't you notice? Or are you really as stupid as I thought? Sook sneered, and a black line flashed on his skin, but soon disappeared into his body. This is my power. Boy, are you stealing my power? Dormammu was horrified and looked at Sook with an incredible look on his face. Do you think I am really interested in playing with you here? Isn't it for your power? But what I didn't expect is that although you are ugly, your power is still quite strong. Sook said, and a black power suddenly surged from his body. It was Dormammu's dark dimension power. If he just wanted to drive Dormammu out of the earth, then Sook could do it directly with the time stone, but when he saw Dormammu, he had a little idea. You know, Dormammu is made of pure energy, and his body can absorb all kinds of abilities. It would be a pity to just beat him away. And this guy came all the way here, it's really unreasonable not to absorb more power. Every time Sook exploded, he would reabsorb the original explosive force and some of Dormammu's power into his body. After just these few times, he stored a lot of power in his body. A lot of Dormammu's dark dimension power. Although this power is difficult to control, it is much easier than the power of millions of stars. It is not difficult for Sook to control this power. Only an idiot like Dormammu would think that he just blew himself up because he had nothing to do. At the same time, Dormammu was surprised to find that his body seemed to be a little smaller than before. Although that was just the tip of the iceberg for his body, it still frightened him. On Earth, there are many magicians who also absorb the power of the dark dimension, but they are all drawn from the dark dimension, but the man in front of him actually absorbed his power directly, which is simply driving him crazy. How dare you do this to me? I'm going to kill you. Kill you. Dormammu's body trembled with another roar, and then, a pile of metal suddenly emerged from nowhere and quickly wrapped up Dormammu's huge body. Sook was stunned and thought, this guy can still wear clothes. It was obvious that Dormammu was scared by Sook's actions just now. But it was obvious that even so, he couldn't stop Sook. Since you insist on wrapping yourself up like a dumpling, I don't mind bursting your dumpling. With a sneer, Sook flew directly to Dormammu. The moment he landed on Dormammu, he pulled up the metal armor on Dormammu with his bare hands. Although the metal armor on Dormammu was dozens of meters thick, it was still not as fast as Sook's hands. Soon, a large piece of the armor on Dormammu was torn off by Sook, revealing the energy body inside. You, shut up, you're shaking so much that I can't absorb any energy. Dormammu hadn't finished speaking when Sook couldn't help but curse. Then, another burst of green light flashed in his hand. Time stands still. Almost instantly, the entire dark dimension suddenly became completely quiet, and Dormammu's ferocious appearance was also frozen, but his eyes were still full of incredible. But at this time, Sook was too lazy to pay attention to Dormammu, because he had already put his hands on Dormammu's body made of pure energy and then madly absorbed his power. Directly touching Dormammu's energy body, a strong and pure dark energy began to transfer from Dormammu to Sook's body, which made Sook very happy. But soon Sook found something wrong, that is, Dormammu's eyes seemed to be still moving. Ah, you fellow, how dare you use the power of the Time Stone to imprison me? Boy, quickly untie the imprisonment, or I will not let you go. I will make you wish you were dead or alive. Although the power of the Time Stone did not completely imprison Dormammu, it still made Dormammu's body temporarily unable to move, and he could only communicate with Sook through his consciousness. However, at this time, Sook sneered in his heart. Dormammu, you've shouted this line at least a dozen times since I got here, but have you ever really hurt me even once? If you have the guts, stop talking nonsense and show some real skills. You, how dare you look down on me? A lowly ant. At that time, Dormammu's huge head had already turned around with great effort, and a pair of eyes comparable to planets were staring at Sook. Obviously, he had gradually gotten rid of the control of time. Sook was a little surprised at first, but soon he was relieved, because he suddenly thought that Dormammu was a creature without the concept of time, so the power of time could not play a big role on him, and in the dark dimension, Dormammu was almost invincible, and even Sook could not kill him directly. Sook could kill Dormammu by absorbing Dormammu's power, but you have to know that Dormammu's body is connected to the dark dimension. If you really want to kill Dormammu by absorbing energy, Sook is afraid that it will take 10,000 years. This is indeed a very bad. But think about it carefully, probably only he can play with Dormammu like this. If it were the Ancient One or someone else, I'm afraid they would have died 10,000 times. Soon, Sook absorbed enough dark energy, and Dormammu also completely got rid of the power of time stopping. When he looked at Sook again, Dormammu finally didn't dare to underestimate Sook, but his expression became more and more gnashing. From before until now, this man has been absorbing his power. Although it is not much, it is just a drop in the bucket for him, but this humiliation is unbearable for him. But he can't bear it, because this man is very powerful, so powerful that he can't do anything to him. If he continues to consume like this, he will lose face, and it is obvious that this man will continue to absorb his power. Although his power in the dark dimension is close to infinite, what if this man can also absorb energy without limit? Doesn't this mean that he will be sucked dry sooner or later? Thinking of this, Dormammu is really angry and aggrieved. I thought there was only one guy like Ancient One on Earth, who knew there was another Titan who controlled the Time Stone. This Nema suddenly changed from novice difficulty to hell difficulty. What the hell? This is unplayable. Thinking of this, Dormammu yelled at Sook, who was not far away. "Ant, I will let you and the Earth go this time, but next time, I promise you will not have another chance. When I come to the Earth next time, you will all die." Although he was preparing to escape, as a king of the dark dimension, Dormammu felt that he could not lose his momentum. However, at this time, Sook, who was standing in the void, shook his head and said, "Dormammu, you are really stubborn. If you slip away with your tail between your legs, I might just let you go. But you said you have nothing to do, so why are you pretending? Next time, do you think I will give you another chance?" After saying this, Sook suddenly sneered, and then the space gem and the time gem took effect at the same time. A terrifying crack began to appear on Dormammu's head, and it was still expanding. It soon spread to the entire dark dimension space, as if it was going to swallow up the entire dark dimension. Inside the crack, there was nothingness. And at the moment when the crack appeared, Dormammu clearly felt that he seemed to be constantly decomposed and sucked into the void space. What did you do to me? What's going on?" At this moment, Dormammu was completely panicked. He realized that he could not resist the crack that was enough to swallow the entire dark dimension. He was so scared that he almost peed. If he could pee. Just kidding. But at this time, Suk just watched all this with cold eyes. This void space is a special space that Suk discovered when he used the time gem and the space gem at the same time. In this void space, there is no concept of time and space, let alone life, but only endless nothingness. Dormammu is a very ambitious guy. If he is let go, he will always come back, so to deal with him, Suk can only uproot the grass. Although the void space cannot kill Dormammu, the special structure can imprison Dormammu forever. This feeling is probably more uncomfortable than killing him, right? No, let's make a deal. No matter what you want, I will satisfy you, as long as you let me go. Dormammu roared. At this time, half of his body had been absorbed by the void. Realizing that Suk didn't speak, Dormammu roared again. I promise, I will never come to Earth again, as long as you let me go. Suk still didn't speak. Then, it seemed that he understood that Suk would not let him go no matter what, and Dormammu's face finally became ferocious again. Titan, I'll remember you. Just wait, I'll be back. When the time comes, I won't let you go. Suke still didn't say anything, just quietly watching Dormammu being swallowed by the void. This feeling is so comfortable. Soon, with Dormammu's final roar, the void finally swallowed him completely. Seeing this, Suk waved his hands, and the Time Stone and Space Stone took effect again. Soon, the void completely disappeared. After all, if the void continued to swallow, it would swallow the Earth together. This was not the result Suk wanted. Then, just as Suk was about to leave, the system's voice rang again. Ding! Congratulations to the host for successfully stopping Dormammu from invading the Earth. Reward: 200,000 villain points and a chance to draw a lottery. Do you want to draw a lottery now? Let's draw, Suke said with a smile. He was in a good mood at the moment. Maybe he could draw something good. The next second, a huge lottery compass suddenly appeared in front of Suke. Suke's mind moved, and the compass started to spin rapidly. Ding! Congratulations to the host for drawing the Super Spark from the Transformers world. Transformers, Super Spark. When Suke heard these words, he was slightly stunned. The next second, he felt that there was something in his hand. Upon closer inspection, it turned out to be an energy ball condensed from white unknown energy. When Suke looked over, information about it automatically appeared in his mind. The Super God Spark comes from the Transformers world. It is the most basic and mysterious component of the Transformers. It gives the Transformers their bodies and lives, and it will never go out and cannot be destroyed. Suk was a little speechless. He never thought that he could draw this thing. Doesn't that mean that he will soon have his own Transformers? Suk just laughed when he thought of Tony's look when he saw the Transformers. Then, he carefully checked the Super Spark in his hand. Suk then placed him in the system space, preparing to find a suitable carrier for him after returning to Earth. Dormammu has been banished to the void space by Suk, and the energy of the dark dimension has completely disappeared. There is no point in staying here any longer, so Suk immediately returned to Earth. Hong Kong. Staring at Suk who fell from the sky, everyone had a complicated look on their faces. Suk. Did you really defeat Dormammu? In the end, it was the Ancient One who spoke first. The Ancient One had been drawing power from the dark dimension, and because of that, he could always feel the presence of Dormammu, but just now, she suddenly couldn't sense Dormammu anymore, which made him guess in his mind that Suk had killed Dormammu. But thinking about it carefully, this kind of thing was a bit too unbelievable, and in order to further confirm it, she couldn't help but ask. Suk smiled and said, Ancient One, you should have felt it, right? What's the point of asking again? Don't worry, Dormammu will no longer be a threat in the future, he has completely disappeared. The void is a very special space. Dormammu will never come back. Therefore, Suk said that Dormammu has disappeared from this world. It is not an exaggeration. Hearing Suk's words, Ji Yuyi immediately showed a very relieved smile on his face, and the whole person seemed to have aged a lot. Suk noticed that the power of darkness was disappearing from Ji Yuyi, which means that Ji Yuyi is about to die. Ji Yuyi is a human being. She could only live for 100 years at most, but by absorbing the power of darkness, she has lived for hundreds of years. In other words, her life actually depends on Dormammu's dark dimension, but now Suk has already. Dormammu was banished to the void, completely cut off from this world, and the Ancient One also lost the power to sustain life. Suk could give the Ancient One some power from the dark dimension to help him sustain life, but from the previous conversation with the Ancient One, Suk knew that the Ancient One did not want to do so. She really longed for death and wanted to have permanent peace. At most, the Ancient One would be dead in 3 days. Relieved, the Ancient One looked at Suk and said, "Mr. Suk, thank you for saving the world. Our deal should have ended here, but I think you should also know that I'm going to die soon. Before I die, can I ask you for one more favor?" "Tell me about it," Suk said. "After I die, I hope you can help take care of my disciples. If they encounter any problems that they cannot solve in the future, please help them. This is my last request as a dying man." Ji Yi said slowly. "I promise you, Kamar Taj, I will help you protect it in the future." After saying this lightly, Suk opened another space channel and disappeared in front of everyone. After Suk left, all the magicians, including Baron Mordo, knelt before the Ancient One, because they also felt that the Ancient One was about to die. After returning to the villa, Suk took out the super fire that he had won earlier, and then thought about what kind of carrier he should find for it. Originally, a car should be the best carrier, but since he got the space gem, Suk has not driven a car, because the power of the space gem is much more convenient than driving. After thinking again and again, his eyes fell on the watch on his wrist. How about trying this? Thinking of this, Suk immediately made up his mind, and then gently moved the super fire in his hand closer to the watch. Ding! Are you sure the super fire and watch are fused? Just then, the system's voice sounded again. Confirm it, Suk said directly. Anyway, according to the system's previous explanation, the super energy fire will not go out. If you are not satisfied, you can just change another carrier. Soon, the super energy fire was integrated into the watch. At the same time, the originally ordinary watch also underwent a radical change. Then, with the continuous flipping and superposition of various parts, a small transformer about 10 centimeters long appeared in front of Suk. And it's obvious that this guy seems to be a woman. Chapter 91. What's going on? Are there male and female robots? Suk was surprised as he stared at the robot that looked like a figurine. Suddenly, the robot opened its eyes and smiled at Suk, saying, "Nice to meet you, my respected master." Even its voice sounded like a cute girl. Feeling strange, Suk couldn't help but ask, "Hey, what's going on? Why are you a woman? Are robots also divided into male and female?" "Of course not," the robot in front of him explained seriously. "The fire had no gender distinction at first, but when it was fused before, it detected that you, the master, seemed to prefer the service of a woman, so it was transformed into a woman. If you are not satisfied, I will transform into a man immediately, but this transformation is irreversible." "Don't. No, let's just leave it like this. I feel good this way." Suk smiled and shook his head. He didn't expect this result. "I have received the instruction and have decided to keep my current gender. Please give me a name." Then the robot spoke again. "Name." Suk was stunned at first, then he thought of something and smiled. "Okay, then you will be called Elena from now on." Elena, this name comes from an American TV series, The Vampire Diaries, that Suk watched in his previous life. When the robot asked Suk to give himself a name, Suk suddenly thought of this name for some reason. Received the designation, confirmed the name. "Dear Master, I am Elena, happy to serve you." Then, the robot smiled again. Sitting comfortably on the sofa, Suk looked at Elena and said, "Elena, now tell me what you can do. Or what are you useful for?" "Master, I am a living mechanical life form. I can invade any database, computer, and network at will. I can also transform my body between various machines. For example, my current body is a watch, but as long as you give the order, I can change to a new body immediately." Elena said seriously. So powerful. Suk was excited when he heard it. This guy is not only a transformer, but also an omnipotent artificial intelligence. This is even cooler than Ultron. Next, he thought of something, and then pointed to the backyard and said, Great, there is a sports car in the yard over there, you can try to transfer yourself to it. Yes, my master. After saying this, Alina's body suddenly changed again, and then turned back into an ordinary watch. Then, energy that was imperceptible to the naked eye suddenly flew out of the watch, and then flew directly to the backyard. When Suke came to the backyard, Elena had already begun to transform. It was only 2 or 3 seconds, and she had turned into a female transformer with a height of about tens of meters. Suke smiled. This time he really got a treasure. Since Elena can transform her body in any machine, then it goes without saying that all kinds of airplanes and cars are no problem, even SHIELD's aerospace carriers can do it. But with the size of the aerospace carrier, if it turns into a transformer, I'm afraid it will be a big deal. It's several thousand meters high, right? Although with Suke's current strength, he doesn't need Alina's help in fighting, but there is no doubt that Alina's existence will definitely save him a lot of trouble. Because she can not only transform into a combat-type transformer, but also become an artificial intelligence to help herself obtain any intelligence. With her around, some things will become much easier in the future. Of course, more importantly, Elena can be carried with you. I have to say, today is a really good day. Then, just as Suke was about to say something, the phone in his pocket rang. He took it out and saw that it was Tony calling again. Suke was a little speechless, thinking that this guy didn't want him to help create Ultron again. But then, he still answered the phone. Hello, Suke, are you free tomorrow? As soon as the phone was connected, Tony's voice rang out. No time, I'm going to go to the sun tomorrow. Suke refused. Tony was speechless when he heard this. You are really awesome. The next second, Tony thought of something again, and then said, don't get me wrong, this time it's not because of Ultron, but because of something else. There will be a large science and technology expo in Stark Industrial Park tomorrow. I call it Stark Industrial Exposition. There will be many novel things at that time. I just want to invite you to visit. And tomorrow, Banner and I will show the preliminary research results of the Ultron plan. It would be a pity if you don't come. The creator of the Stark Industrial Exposition is Howard Stark, the father of Iron Man Tony Stark. The expo was created very early, but it was not called Stark Industrial Exposition at that time, but the Tomorrowland Science and Technology Exposition. At that time, it was still World War II. Because of the desire for technology, Howard Stark and a large number of like-minded scientists jointly founded this Science and Technology Expo called Tomorrowland. Focus on displaying some advanced science and technology and concepts. In the plot of Captain America 1, Howard Stark once showed an anti-gravity flying car at the Tomorrowland Science and Technology Exposition, which was definitely a black technology at the time. It was obvious that Tony was not the only genius in the Stark family, his father was also a genius. After Tony took over the Tomorrowland Science Fair, he unceremoniously changed the Tomorrowland Science Fair to the Stark Science Fair. This kind of place must be a place full of science fiction for ordinary people, but for aliens like Suke, it was simply boring, so he had no interest in it. Besides, he just got a transformer and artificial intelligence Elena, what technology could be more powerful than her? But then, just when Suke was about to reject Tony, he suddenly thought of something, and then looked at Elena who had changed back into the form of a sports car. The next second, he laughed again. There was no doubt that Tony had originally planned to display Ultron's research results at tomorrow's Science and Technology Exhibition, and then show off in front of everyone. And he would call me later. It should not just be to invite me to take a look, it should be more of a show-off, right? How could I miss such a wonderful thing? Tony wants to show off, right? Very good. Then I will take Elena to give him a good slap in the face. Thinking of this, Suke smiled and said to Tony on the other end of the phone, Tony, I promised you, I will come tomorrow, but I hope your research will not disappoint me. Of course not. On the other end of the phone, Tony said excitedly, this is the result of my research with Banner, it is guaranteed to surprise everyone. Very good, then I'll wait for you to surprise me tomorrow. With a slight smile, Suke hung up the phone. Looking at Elena in front of him, he could almost imagine Tony's shocked expression. Suke didn't want to hit Tony in the face, but seeing Tony's face stretched out to him, he had no choice but to hit him. Sometimes, people are just so mean. The next morning, After a simple packing, Suk drove to Stark Industries. Of course, to be more precise, it was not Suk who was driving, but Elena. That's right, at this moment, Elena has moved to the sports car. Lying comfortably in the driver's seat and looking at the scenery outside the window, Suk realized that he seemed to have not been relaxed for a long time. Recently, it was either the mutants' affairs or Dormammu's affairs that made him a little too busy. Although the mutants' affairs have been resolved and Dormammu is no longer a threat, you have to know that this is the Marvel world. Who knows what will happen tomorrow? In this world, no matter what happens, it's normal. Dear Master, we are here. Do you need me to wait for you here? Just when Suke was thinking about something, Alina's voice rang again, bringing Suke back to reality. Coming back to his senses, Suke took out his mobile phone and said, "No, just transfer it to this phone and follow my command line later." Yes, Elena agreed obediently, and began to transfer from the sports car to Suke's mobile phone. Then, holding the mobile phone, Suke got out of the car and threw the car keys to the waiter beside him. "Hey, Suk." As soon as he got off the car, a voice rang out. Suk looked up and found that it was Tony who was talking. Next to him, there was a beauty in a black evening dress. It was the Black Widow. Strange, why is the Black Widow here too? Thinking of this, Suk walked over. "Why are you here too?" Suke stared at the Black Widow beside Tony. The Black Widow smiled and said, "Why? Am I not allowed to come here?" "Of course not." Suke smiled and said, "I just think you should have a lot of things to do now. I'm just a person, and a woman at that. I need to rest, too, okay." The Black Widow shook her head, with a look of loss in her eyes. Tony, who was standing by, was speechless when he saw this, but then he said to Suk, "Suk, the reason why Natasha came here is entirely because of you. Originally, she didn't want to come no matter what I said, but when I mentioned that you would come, she agreed immediately. I really envy you." "Tony, shut up." Before Tony finished speaking, Black Widow's face suddenly turned red, and then she glared at Tony. Tony shut up instantly, then made a gesture of surrender and said, all right, I know what's going on. Don't worry, I won't disturb you. You can do whatever you want. By the way, Suke, there are a lot of beauties here today, so don't be polite." While saying this, Tony did not forget to wink at Black Widow at Suke, and the meaning was already very clear. "Come on, why are you still standing there?" There is no doubt that Black Widow is a woman that any man would salivate over, but Tony knew from the beginning that Black Widow liked Suk, so he didn't dare to have any other thoughts about Black Widow, because he knew that if Suk got angry, the consequences would be very serious. No one dared to hit on Suk's woman. After hearing what Tony said, Suk was somewhat surprised, because he didn't expect that Black Widow came here because of him. Although Suke had no particular interest in Black Widow, he thought about how Emma, Jean, and Wanda were all busy with mutant matters recently and had no time to spend with him. In addition, Black Widow was almost at his doorstep, so it would be unreasonable for him not to show some interest in her. He finally reached out to Black Widow. "I just want to find someone to accompany me. If you don't mind, let's come together." Of course, when Black Widow heard this, her eyes flashed with enthusiasm, but she returned to normal in an instant. After agreeing, she gently held Suke's hand. Then, in the envious and surprised eyes of other men, Suke walked in holding Black Widow's hand. Tony is rich, and the Stark Technology exhibition is a very important thing to Tony, so Tony is very concerned about this exhibition. Apart from other things, there are thousands of exhibition stands alone. Anyone who is invited or approved by Stark Company can get a booth of their own for free. Because of this, scientists and inventors from all over the world gather here. On the exhibition stand, all kinds of high-tech exhibits emerge in an endless stream, which is really dazzling. Of course, the number of people who come to participate in the exhibition is also outrageous. Even if there are only a few, there must be tens of thousands of people. It seems that the previous mutant incident did not cause much impact on ordinary people. Suke looked around, then smiled and said to the Black Widow beside him, "Natasha, Nick didn't send you here again this time, did he?" The Black Widow rolled her eyes at Suke and said with some complaints, "You were wrong this time. I'm afraid Nick will never let me come to you again in the future." Because of your previous threat to the president has ordered that SHIELD is prohibited from contacting you again. I took a big risk to come here this time. Really? Then I am really flattered. Soo-K said with a smile. You don't have to be flattered. Just look at me more. Don't you really not understand my feelings? The Black Widow said, and her charming eyes looked at Soo-K again. This woman really knows how to seduce men. Soo-K sighed in his heart, but a cunning smile suddenly appeared on the corner of his mouth, and then he said, of course I understand. If you have time tonight, remember to come to my house to find me. I am alone at home now. I think we can have a good talk about your feelings in bed. Hearing this, even though Black Widow is an agent, she blushed a little. You're really welcome. Are you kidding? Why should I be polite to you? Sook smiled and didn't take it seriously. At the same time, on the other side, as the Marvel Universe's showman, Tony suddenly parachuted into the middle of the entire convention center wearing his armor. Not far behind him was the tallest exhibition stand in the entire venue. Pepper Potts and Bruce Banner were there at the moment. Next to them was a big thing, but it was covered with a white cloth. Sook knew without looking that this should be the original version of Ultron. Sure enough, Tony was going further and further on the road of courting death. Tony appeared in the entire venue in the most flamboyant posture, instantly attracting everyone's attention. For a moment, the reporters who were taking pictures in the venue suddenly rushed over like crazy and surrounded him in an instant. Mr. Tony, as the founder of the Avengers, what do you want to say to everyone? Mr. Tony, it is said that it was not the Avengers who saved New York before, but someone else. Do you have anything to say about this? The president previously proposed allowing mutants to establish their own country. What impact do you think this will have on human society? Stark Enterprises hasn't supplied weapons to the military for a long time. How do you make money? According to the information we received, you seem to have an illegitimate child outside. Is this true? If so, who is his mother? At that moment, more than 10 microphones were extended in front of Tony, and the mouths of those reporters were just like machine guns talking non-stop. Tony was completely speechless. The previous questions were fine, but what about the last illegitimate child? Although he has always been a playboy, he has never had children outside. These reporters are just too bad up. Black Widow smiled and pointed at Tony and said, look, this is the treatment of being a hero, do you want to try it? After all, you saved New York and the Earth. Forget it. Soo-K shook his head and said, if those people treated me like this, they would have died long ago. Also, don't take me as a hero. I have never been a hero. Sometimes the reason why I do good things is just because I need to get something, that's all. Haha. Black Widow just smiled and stopped talking. Hello Mr. Stark, my name is Jekka, can you please come and see my robot? This is my latest intelligent robot, it can do many things that other robots can't do, I believe you will be interested. Just when Tony was surrounded by reporters, a tall and thin man suddenly squeezed in, and then shouted at Tony with a robot. For a moment, Tony seemed to have grabbed a life-saving straw, and hurriedly shouted, robot. I am very interested in this, come on, take me to see it. The man named Jekka was excited when he heard this, and then he didn't know where he got the strength from, and he pushed the reporters who blocked Tony aside, and then took Tony to his own exhibition stand, but it was obvious that those reporters would not give up, and they immediately chased after him. But what surprised Tony was that when he came to Jekka's display stand, he found that Sook and Black Widow were also here. This was actually a coincidence, because Sook didn't expect that the exhibition stand next to him was Jekka's exhibition stand. It's a bit noisy here, how about we go to a quieter place? Knowing that Soo-K doesn't like noise, for the safety of everyone here, Black Widow, he hurriedly spoke. However, Soo-K shook his head when he heard this, and then said with a smile, no, I am very interested in this guy's exhibits. Anyway, our work can only be done in the evening. Before that, let's take a look first. Quote. Hearing this, Black Widow's face turned red again. But at this time, Soo-K ignored Black Widow and looked at the exhibition stand next to him with interest. At this moment, a clumsy robot was making coffee on the stand. Tony looked hopeless. Tony originally thought that the intelligent robot the other party was talking about would be very powerful, but after all this time, it turned out to be just a coffee machine, which made him very upset. Is this also called an intelligent robot? Then, the people who were watching around also shouted, "Hey, isn't this just a coffee machine? If this is considered an intelligent robot, then my son's Transformers toys are also considered intelligent robots, right?" As soon as these words came out, everyone laughed. When the man named Jacka heard this, his face instantly turned red again, and then he shouted, "Don't underestimate me. Making coffee is just its simplest function, its biggest function is intelligent voice dialogue and control." For a moment, Tony suddenly became interested again, because if it was really as he said, the design of this robot was almost the same as Jarvis. Next, Jacka suddenly put on a pair of special headphones and gave the robot an order through voice commands. "Ellie, the coffee needs sugar, go add some sugar." After receiving the order, the robot instantly moved to the sugar jar beside it, picked up a piece of sugar with its tweezer-like tentacles, and put it in the pot of coffee that was brewed before. This is quite interesting. For a moment, everyone was attracted by this little robot again. Hey, even if he can add sugar, he is just a coffee machine that can add sugar. What does this thing have to do with intelligent robots? Then at this moment, a discordant voice suddenly rang out. Everyone looked back curiously and saw Sook walking over with Black Widow. Hearing someone belittle his work, the man named Jacka was naturally very angry, but then, he suppressed his anger, looked at Sook with a fake smile and said, "Sir, since you belittle my robot so much, then I guess you should have a better robot, right? Why don't you take out your robot and show it to everyone, so that they can judge which one is better?" Tony on the side was a little nervous, but before he could say anything, he saw Sook winked at him, as if telling him not to interfere. What is this guy going to do again? Confused, Tony stopped talking immediately. "Do you want to see my robot?" "Of course, but I hope you are ready." With a smile, Suke put the phone on the exhibition stand. For a moment, the whole place suddenly became unusually quiet. Isn't this just a cell phone? What does this have to do with robots? Can this thing transform? Then, no one knew who shouted first, and everyone started laughing. Among the crowd, only Tony and Black Widow didn't laugh, because they knew that Suke would never do anything he was not sure of. But, Tony stared at the phone on the exhibition stand and shook his head gently, because in his opinion, it seemed to be an ordinary phone. It was really strange. What on earth was Suke doing? Facing everyone's laughter, Suke was not angry, but just shouted to the phone, "Elena, transform." In an instant, in the eyes of everyone's astonishment, the phone began to quickly decompose and reassemble, just like the Transformers in the movie. In just less than 3 seconds, the previous phone had turned into a robot about 20 centimeters long. And it was a female robot. "Dear Master, hello, my name is Elena, I am happy to serve you." After the transformation was completed, Elena bowed respectfully to Suke. For a moment, the air was dead silent, and everyone was completely stunned by the scene before their eyes. This is not a robot, this is a transformer. Then, someone in the crowd suddenly shouted, and with this shout, the whole crowd suddenly exploded, countless cameras began to focus on Elena, and all kinds of flashes kept flashing. In the entire exhibition center, everyone started running over here, everyone wanted to see this robot that could turn into a mobile phone. Oh my God, what on earth is going on? Is technology so advanced now? This is not human technology, okay. This must be alien technology. Holy shit, look, this robot can blink. No, I want a robot like this too. For a moment, the whole place was in a bit of chaos. It was obvious that Elena had shocked the whole audience. And Suke had already retreated to the side with Black Widow, watching this scene with a smile. After finally squeezing out of the crowd, Tony came to Suke and said excitedly, "Suke, what's the matter with that robot? How did you get her? Is she a technology from your planet? Can you lend it to me for research?" As one of the smartest geniuses on Earth, Tony was completely stunned when he saw Elena for the first time, because Elena was the robot he had always dreamed of. If Elena's technology can be applied to the Ultron project, then there is no doubt that his research will completely change the world. Staring at Tony, Suke knew that this guy must be thinking of some suicidal plan again, and then he smiled and said, "Okay, as long as she is willing, Elena, come here." As soon as Suke finished speaking, Elena, who was on the exhibition stand, was suddenly sensed. Then, she suddenly jumped up, and then a pair of wings stretched out from her back, and then flew towards Suke. Wow, she can actually fly. When seeing this scene, not only those who were watching were completely stunned, but even Tony was the same. Landing steadily beside Suke, Elena looked at Suke and said, "Master, what do you want?" "It's nothing, it's just that the person in front of me wants to study you, I wonder if you are willing," Suke said with a smile. When Elena heard this, her hands suddenly raised up, and then turned into two extremely sharp knives, and then she made an attacking posture and said, "Reject." Except for the master, Elena will not accept research and orders from anyone. This guy can actually attack. Tony was completely dumbfounded. Okay, Elena, change back to your original appearance. The goal has been achieved, and Suke immediately gave Elena another order. Yes. After agreeing, Elena's body changed again, and then turned back into the original mobile phone. Tony's expression was already a little fanatical. Of course, the same thing happened to him, as did the reporters behind him and the people who came to the exhibition. "Sir, what is your name? Did you develop this intelligent robot yourself? Is this human technology or is it alien technology? Would you consider mass-producing this robot? According to market demand, it will definitely make you a lot of money." For a moment, all the cameras were focused on Suke again. But at this moment, Suke was too lazy to pay attention to these people. He looked at Tony and smiled and said, "Tony, I don't like this. If you don't find a way to deal with it, I will deal with it myself." "No, no, no." Tony's eyelids jumped when he heard this, and he waved his hands immediately, then waved to the security guards not far away. Soon, dozens of security guards came over and blocked all the reporters and others to prevent them from contacting Suke any further. Just kidding, if Suke is really angry, I don't know how many people will die here. In order to attract the attention of these people, Tony suddenly flew up again, and then shouted to everyone, "Everyone, please don't be anxious. Next, please allow me to solemnly introduce to you the latest research project of Stark Company. We named it Project Ultron. This is an invention that can change the world. Everyone, please follow me." When saying this, Tony was obviously lacking in confidence. If there had not been the robot displayed by Sook before, then his Project Ultron would definitely attract everyone's crazy attention. However, after the robot displayed by Sook, his Project Ultron was really a bit embarrassing. Because until now, Ultron is just a primary model, and it can't be compared with the Transformer-like robot that Sook showed. But you have to take it even if you can't afford it. Otherwise, if these people continue to pester Suke, there will definitely be big trouble. Hey, he was planning to show off at the exhibition today, but he didn't expect Suke to show off. Tony felt a little pain in his head when he thought of this. The reporters saw that they could not interview Sook, and what Thor said before was indeed very interesting. For a moment, all the reporters followed Tony and left. Then, just when Suke felt a little bored and was about to leave, a loud noise came from not far away. "Get out of the way. Don't stop me. I'm not a beggar. I'm a scientist. I want to see Mr. Stark. My team has a great invention. I believe Mr. Stark will be interested in it. Don't stop me." Looking up, Sook saw a man who looked a little thin and embarrassed trying to rush in, but it seemed that because he didn't have an invitation, the security guards didn't let him in at all. Sook had no interest in the so-called great invention of this man. He just thought it was a bit too noisy, and then he said to a security guard next to him, "Let him in." As early as after learning that Sook was coming, Tony issued an order to everyone in the Stark Industrial Park, that is, here, Sook has the same rights as him, no matter what he needs or orders, everyone must meet it unconditionally. With this premise, the security guards naturally dared not neglect it, and then the security guard at the door let the man in. Because he knew that it was Sook who let him in, after coming in, the man walked towards Sook with a grateful face. It was at this time that Sook found that this guy seemed to have some problems with his legs and needed to use crutches when walking. "Sir, I don't know who you are, but thank you for doing that. My name is Aldrich Killian, nice to meet you," Aldrich Killian said as he extended his hand in a friendly manner. Aldrich Killian, hearing the name and looking at the other person's face, Suke suddenly realized and began to remember this guy. He was none other than the biggest villain in Iron Man 3. Aldridge Killian is a disabled scientist who is dedicated to an extremis virus that can cure diseases and sincerely hopes to join forces with Tony to benefit mankind. However, after being severely humiliated by the arrogant Tony, Killian decided to conduct his own research on the extremis virus. After years of research, Dr. Killian not only successfully developed the extremis virus, but even used the extremis virus to cure his own disability and gain superpowers. After that, the blackened Dr. Killian planned a series of attacks against Iron Man, and Iron Man dispatched the Iron Legion to fight a desperate battle with his extremis corps. In the end, Killian was defeated by Pepper, who had obtained the superpowers of the extremis virus. Putting aside what happened after he turned black, this guy is undoubtedly a genius. And the extremis virus is definitely a very valuable thing. But if you think about it carefully, the timeline seems a bit wrong, because according to the original plot, Killian should have found Tony 20 years ago. Why did he come now? Is the timeline messed up again? Thinking about it carefully, it seems that this is the only possibility. Thinking of this, Suke smiled slightly, then reached out and shook hands with Killian and said, "Nice to meet you, Dr. Killian. I have always been interested in your research." Killian was instantly excited when he heard this. Although he didn't know who Suke was, he knew from his dress and the attitude of the security guards that he was definitely not an ordinary person. Originally, he had no confidence in coming to Tony this time, because everyone knew that Tony was an arrogant guy who was never willing to cooperate with others. Unexpectedly, he met someone who was interested in his research as soon as he arrived here. How could Killian not be excited? In his opinion, Suke was simply his god. But then, Killian asked tentatively, "Sir, what is your name, and how did you know about our research?" "My name is Suke. It's not important how I know about your research. What's important is that I'm very interested in your research. If you can tell me more details, maybe I will consider funding your research," Suke said, stroking his chin, with a playful look on his face. Because just now, he suddenly had a strange idea. That is, can he use the extremis virus and Elena to make a suit of armor for himself? An armor that can't be damaged in any way, just like Tony's extremis virus armor, but of course, what he wants is much more powerful than Tony's extremis virus armor. Elena has the ability to transform, which can make any metal into the shape she wants, and the extremis virus can give Elena the ability to repair herself. Coupled with Asgard's unique Marvel's strongest metal Uru, Suke had an idea in his mind for a while. When he heard this, Killian almost knelt down to Suke. Because at this moment, he was almost desperate. Most of his team left, and investors no longer invested because they thought Killian's research was a very useless invention. In a few days at most, his research will be completely stopped. By that time, he will no longer be able to conduct research. For him, it is even more painful than killing him. And Suke's words gave him hope. "No problem, no problem. I have brought all the relevant information. You can read it while listening to my explanation. I promise that this must be a great invention and will not disappoint you," Killian said excitedly while kneeling on the ground and opening the suitcase in his hand, and then began to look through the documents inside. There was no trace of a villain in his appearance. Although I don't know why Suke is interested in such an ordinary scientist, it is obvious that Suke will be busy again next. Thinking of this, the Black Widow suddenly leaned close to Suke's ear and whispered, "It seems that you have something to do again. In this case, I'd better leave for the time being." Suke nodded slightly, and then thought of something, and then said, "Don't forget what happened in the evening." The Black Widow blushed, gave Suke a white look, and then left. After the Black Widow left, Suke looked at Killian who was kneeling on the ground and said, "Okay, this is not a place to talk, come with me." Then, Suke took Killian to a quiet place. After calming down his excitement, Killian began to talk about his research. A project called Desperate Virus. According to our survey, hundreds of thousands of people around the world become disabled every year due to accidents or car accidents, and among these people, 50% will suffer limb damage, especially those retired soldiers, whose physical injuries make it impossible for them to live. Obviously, they all want to have a healthy life again, so etc. Just as Killian was talking, Suke suddenly raised his hand to interrupt him, with a helpless look on his face. "What's wrong? Did I say something wrong?" Killian asked anxiously. You know, Suk is his lifeline right now, and he is worried that Suk will give up on him. Suk shook his head and said, "It's not a question of good or bad, but I don't need you to talk so much nonsense. You just need to tell me the key points. My patience is limited, understand?" "Certainly." Killian nodded nervously at first, then began to organize his words. "To put it simply, our research can make any organism regrow damaged limbs. We have already started experiments on plants, and the experiments have been very successful, but it will take some time to conduct experiments on living organisms." This time, Killian behaved much better and finished his words in one breath. "You seem to have forgotten its side effects, such as explosions and so on," Suke said with a smile, looking at Killian. Hearing this, Killian immediately looked at Suke with an incredible look on his face. He was really surprised why Suke knew about the side effects. You know, this kind of thing, except for him and a few core members, no one else knows. For a moment, Killian began to feel uneasy, because he suddenly felt that he had no secrets in front of Suke. Just when he didn't know how to explain this side effect, Suke spoke again. "Forget it, since it is research, it is understandable that there are side effects, but I will not fund you." Ah, when Killian heard this, he seemed to fall from heaven to hell, and his body softened. He failed. No one would understand his research. But at this moment, a bank card appeared in front of him. "Don't get me wrong," Suk smiled and said, "when I said I won't fund you, I meant that I want to buy out all your research, including you and your team. Here's $30 million, which is your deposit. When you go back, organize all the information and report it to Tony Stark. Just say it was me who said it. The price is not a problem. Just do it as soon as possible." After saying this, Suk no longer paid attention to Killian, who was kneeling on the ground and looking at him in astonishment, but walked out directly. When Suk reached the door, Killian, who was kneeling on the ground, finally reacted, then looked at the bank card in his hand with excitement and laughed. He finally succeeded. As a Titan, Suk had never been interested in money. He even found a planet made entirely of gold in space before, but because he had no interest, he did nothing. So giving 30 million to Killian was really nothing to Suk, but as for the rest of the matter, Tony had to do it. Because to be honest, he really knew nothing about doing research. After coming out of the Science and Technology exhibition hall and returning to her car, Elena got back into the sports car. "Master, where are we going now?" Elena asked. Just as Suk was about to answer, he suddenly saw a very familiar figure through the car window. Black Widow. Strange, didn't this guy leave? Why is he still here? Suk thought with some curiosity. Then, he suddenly saw several burly men appearing around Black Widow, and it was obvious that they were all carrying weapons. Under their coercion, Black Widow was forced to get on an armored vehicle. As if she had noticed what Suk was watching, Elena said immediately, "Master, according to analysis, there is a 99% chance that Natasha was coerced. Do we need to launch a rescue now?" "No, just follow them, I want to see what's going on." Suke narrowed his eyes and said with a playful look. "Dare to kidnap a SHIELD agent in broad daylight, and a top agent at that. This kind of thing doesn't happen every day. 0 And according to Suke's understanding of Black Widow, she could have escaped in that situation just now, but she didn't do so, but chose to follow the other party away, which is very intriguing. Suke has always felt that Black Widow has many secrets that cannot be told, and even SHIELD doesn't know about them. Now, Suke thinks that it may be time to reveal Black Widow's secrets." After receiving Suke's order, Elena didn't dare to hesitate. After the other party's vehicle started, she followed it. Moreover, Elena's tracking method is very special. She can quickly calculate the other party's approximate destination, and then take a detour to eliminate the other party's suspicion. So all the way, the other party didn't notice that Suke followed. Soon, the car drove to a suburb of New York City and stopped at an abandoned farm. From a distance, Suke asked Elena to stop, and then asked her to wait for orders outside, and he followed quietly. Obviously, the other party didn't expect that someone would follow them, so there was no one watching around the farm, and Suke went in easily. Sitting on a beam on the roof, looking down, the scenery below is in full view. In the middle of the farm, there is a large open space. In the middle of the open space, there is a woman tied up on a chair. It is the Black Widow. Beside her is a group of men dressed in very special clothes. After a while, the leading man finally spoke. Black Widow, have you forgotten your mission? Where are the things we want? Why haven't you given them to us yet? The man said slowly, his voice indescribably cold. The fearless Black Widow, facing the man's questioning, actually showed a trace of fear. I didn't forget the mission. This matter is not as simple as you think. He is not an ordinary person. It is not easy to get his information. I am still working hard. The Black Widow said in a panic. Suke was a little surprised when he heard this, because he suddenly thought that the Black Widow was talking about might be himself. Just as he was thinking, the man in the lead finally spoke again. Really? But according to the report from our SHIELD internal staff, you have been in frequent contact with that man recently. It seems that you went to that place today because of that man, right? The man said while playing with the dagger in his hand. No. Black Widow shook her head and said in a panic, I was just sent there by Nick Fury to talk to Tony Stark about something. Asshole, you dare to lie to me. If I don't teach you a lesson, you won't know who I am. The man said, and suddenly slapped Black Widow in the face. Pa! There was a crisp sound. Suke was calm when he saw this, because he had already seen that Black Widow seemed to have been working for another organization, and this organization seemed to want to get his specific information. It must be said that this really disappointed him. He had planned to take Black Widow's. Shaking his head, Suke was ready to leave. He didn't want to care about Black Widow anymore. Whether Black Widow lived or died, it had nothing to do with him. But just as he was about to leave, the man's voice suddenly rang again. I said, you are not in love with that man, are you? Suke paused, and suddenly stopped again. No, I don't understand what you are talking about. Black Widow shook her head and said, no, if not, then why are you unwilling to give us his information? Don't think we don't know. You knew a long time ago that the man was from outer space and was an alien, but you kept it a secret from us. Why? It's because you fell in love with that man. Don't forget, you are not even a human being. What qualifications do you have to love someone? The man said, becoming more and more angry. And Suke was silent for a while. He noticed that when the man asked Black Widow if she was in love with him, although Black Widow had been refusing, everyone could see that she was just lying. Did Black Widow really fall in love with him? Suke shook his head, always feeling that this matter was too unbelievable. But then, he suddenly thought of another question. What did the man mean when he said to Black Widow before, you are not even a human being? The most intuitive sentence, the explanation is that Black Widow is not a human, but this is obviously wrong. If Black Widow is not a human, then what is she? An alien. This is even more impossible. Forget it, I'd better go down and ask in person. Thinking of this, Suke opened a space passage without hesitation. Then, a space passage suddenly appeared in the center of the venue below. With one step, Suke appeared in front of everyone. Seeing Suke appear, Black Widow had a complicated expression, because she probably guessed that Suke had heard what she said just now. As for the others, they were all incredulous when they saw Suke suddenly appear. Who are you? The leading man looked at Sukidao with surprise. Who am I? It's funny, haven't you always wanted to get my information? How come you don't even know what I look like? Your intelligence is too poor, isn't it? Suke shook his head, speechless. At this time, the man in the lead finally reacted. Are you the alien? Guessed it right, Suke said lightly. Catch him. Then, the man actually issued an order to arrest Suke, which really made Suke feel a little annoyed. Until now, he has never met such a person. This guy is simply looking for death. Just relying on a few of you little thieves, you want to catch me. You are not just poor in intelligence. You don't even have an intelligence department, right? Looking at these guys in front of him again, Suke's eyes suddenly became very cold. For a moment, Black Widow only felt a figure flashing before her eyes. When she reacted, she saw that those people had been killed by Suke. The man in the lead was the worst, with his head torn off. And this only happened in a moment. Those people didn't even react before they were killed by Suke in an extremely cruel way. Then, Suke suddenly moved a stool and sat down in front of Black Widow. He looked at her calmly and said, Natasha, do you want to explain what is going on? There is nothing to explain. The Black Widow shook her head and said, since you have discovered my secret, I have nothing to say. Kill me if you want. Kill you. Do you really want to die? Suke smiled and said, it's so good to be alive. You do not understand. For me, living is suffering. Black Widow shook her head, looking desperate. Very good. Since you don't want to live anyway, then I think you shouldn't mind if I do something else to you, right? Suke said, and suddenly a wicked smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. The Black Widow thought Suke was going to torture herself, and then laughed miserably, it doesn't matter, just kill me in the end. Very good. Nodding with a smile, Suke suddenly stretched out his hand and gently placed it on the Black Widow's head. In an instant, the memory of the Black Widow flashed in Suke's mind. Some things, instead of letting the Black Widow say, it is better to check it yourself. After seeing the deepest memory of the Black Widow, Suke suddenly discovered a jaw-dropping truth, that is, the Black Widow in front of him was not the real Black Widow. She was not even a human, but a clone. A clone of the original Black Widow. For a moment, Suke finally understood why the man said that the Black Widow was not human. The Black Widow was born in the former Soviet Union. She was trained as an agent by Soviet agents at a young age. After her body was genetically modified by the Soviet government in the secret facility, Red Room, she became a super agent. The Soviet Union was naturally very satisfied with the Black Widow, but they were not satisfied with only one Black Widow, so they tried to clone with the genes of the Black Widow to create more Black Widow substitutes, but this experiment was very difficult. So far, only one test subject has survived, and that is the clone in front of Suk. About 3 or 4 years ago, the real Black Widow unfortunately died while performing a mission, so the Soviet Union immediately sent out a clone of the Black Widow to replace the original her. After that, Suk came to this world accidentally. The Soviet side asked the Black Widow to help obtain Suk's information, but the Black Widow had never told the Soviet Union about Suk's information. Because in this woman's heart, she really fell in love with herself. What the? It is worth mentioning that the original Black Widow was a person who would do anything to achieve her mission, even using her own body to achieve her goal, but this new Black Widow is a very conservative woman, and she is still a virgin until now. After the memory was acquired, Suke withdrew his hand, and then stared at the woman in front of him with a complicated look. However, the Black Widow didn't know what Suke had done before. When she saw Suke looking at her again, she raised her head proudly and said, "Kill me." Suke said nothing, raised his hand and cut the rope on the Black Widow. Natasha, I am going to ask you something seriously. You must give me a positive answer. Do you understand? When he looked at Black Widow again, Suke's eyes suddenly became tough. Although she was a little confused, under the pressure of Suke's momentum, Black Widow nodded subconsciously. I want you to be my woman, are you willing? Suke asked with a smile on his face. The Black Widow was stunned at first, then shook her head and said, You are crazy, you should know that I am not even a human being, I am just a. What does it have to do with me? I just ask if you are willing or not. Before the Black Widow could finish her words, Suke suddenly interrupted her with an extremely tough tone. At this moment, the Black Widow felt a tremor in her heart, as if something had melted in her heart. Then, tears started to flow. I do. Very good. Suke smiled slightly. This kind of thing seemed to be a trivial matter to him, but for Black Widow, it was a major event that changed her fate. Now, he could finally live. No one knew how long had passed before the two reluctantly parted ways. Unlike Emma and Jean, Black Widow's body was also strengthened with serum, similar to Captain America's super body, so Suk seemed a little rough when dealing with Black Widow, and Black Widow had been trying her best to cooperate with Suk. This time, Suk really experienced an unprecedented feeling. Lying on a pile of dry straw, playing with Black Widow's hair, Suk slowly said, Don't use the name Black Widow anymore. The real Black Widow is dead. From now on, you are just Natasha, and you have nothing to do with Black Widow. Natasha blushed and hummed softly, and then she huddled into Suk's arms again. Then, Suk suddenly thought of something and asked again, Where is the base of those guys just now? Although Natasha was curious about why Suk asked this, she told Suk immediately. Suk's heart moved, and he instantly opened a space channel in the air. For a moment, a huge base appeared in front of them. Without any hesitation, Suk flicked his fingers, and in an instant, an energy ball the size of a fingernail suddenly flew over. Boom! Accompanied by a sound that shook the world, the entire base was instantly blown to pieces, and even a large pit tens of meters deep was blown out on the ground where the base was located. Staring at the large pit in front of him, Suk smiled and kissed Natasha on the forehead, then slowly said, "From now on, I will be there for you, and no one can bully you anymore." Natasha was moved for a long time, and this feeling suddenly turned into a fire in her heart, and then she climbed onto Suk's body again. Originally, Suke didn't plan to let Natasha return to S.H.I.E.L.D. With his current strength, S.H.I.E.L.D. wouldn't dare to say anything even if he forced Natasha to stay. But Suke was a little surprised that Natasha still wanted to return to S.H.I.E.L.D., because she felt that she had done some bad things in the past, and she could do some good things in S.H.I.E.L.D. to make up for it. Suke found it a little funny, but still agreed. After all, it was good for him to have a woman in S.H.I.E.L.D., and he would be the first to know all kinds of intelligence from S.H.I.E.L.D. in the future. But of course, Natasha returned to S.H.I.E.L.D. the next day. That night, after the two returned to the villa, they made love again. The next morning, when Suk woke up, Natasha had already left. After a simple wash, Suk suddenly received a call from Tony. "Hey, Suk, a guy named Killian came to my place today. He claimed that you are going to invest in his research, and even plan to buy out his entire team and experiments. Is that true?" "Killian, this guy is really quick." With a slight smile, Suk said, "Yes, that's true." "Did he say how much money he needed?" "It's said that it will cost $250 million, which does not include the construction of the laboratory." I said, "Suk, when did you become interested in biology?" Tony said on the other end of the phone with some curiosity, and of course a little disappointed. Originally, he was not very interested in this kind of thing, but after meeting Killian this morning and listening to his long speech about his research and ideas, Tony suddenly became very interested in his research, but unfortunately, this research has been reserved by Suk. Don't worry about why I'm interested in his research. In short, Tony, you should give him whatever he wants. Believe me, Killian's research will not disappoint you. Just think of the money as a loan from me." Suke said. "Borrow? No, to be honest, I am also a little interested in this research. If it can be applied to my armor, I will be even more powerful. How about this? The money will be my investment. How about we join hands to start a company?" Tony said with interest. Although Suke was a little speechless, he thought that if Tony really joined the project, it would definitely speed up the progress of the project, and he had no interest in research, so he could let Tony manage it. He finally agreed. "Just do as you say, but I'll leave the company's matters to you. I'm not interested in this kind of thing." "No problem." Tony happily agreed and hung up the phone. Not long after, there was a knock on the door, and Baron Mordo appeared at the door of Suk's house. The first time he saw Baron Mordo, Suk thought of one thing. The Ancient One is dead. Sure enough, Baron Mordo looked at Suk with a sad face and said, "Mr. Suk, the Supreme Sorcerer has died this morning. Because of your help to us before, I think I need to tell you." Although Baron Mordo has never liked the Ancient One, he is his master after all. Everything he has was taught by his master, so facing the death of the Ancient One, his heart is naturally very sad. Suk has always disliked the Ancient One, and even at the beginning he wished that the Ancient One would die, but at this moment, he was somewhat disappointed in his heart. Although this guy threatened himself at the beginning, everything he did was to protect the Earth. For the sake of the Time Stone, Suk still went to the funeral of the Ancient One, and at this funeral, he met the future Doctor Strange. After experiencing the death of the Ancient One, Doctor Strange has obviously grown a lot. Suk knows that he will soon become the next Supreme Sorcerer. This is good news for both Earth and Kamar Taj. After attending the funeral of Ancient One, just as Suk was about to leave, Doctor Strange suddenly stopped Suk. "Mr. Suke, please stay." Suke was a little curious, so he stopped and asked, "Is there anything else?" Before leaving, Master Ancient One seemed to sense something, but he was fuzzy at the time and couldn't explain it clearly, so he drew what he sensed and asked me to give it to you. Doctor Strange said, handing a piece of paper to Suke. Suke took it and saw that there was a surfer on the paper, but the strange thing was that this person seemed to be surfing in the universe. Wait, surfing, Silver Surfer, Suk thought with some surprise. Silver Surfer, also known as Silver Surfer, whose real name is Norin Rider, is an astronomer from the planet Zenla in the outer galaxy. Suddenly one day, Galactus came to Zenla and prepared to use this planet as his food. But Norin decided to try to negotiate with Galactus. He begged Galactus to spare his home planet. The price was that Norin was willing to serve Galactus forever and help him find a planet suitable for food. After Galactus considered the pros and cons, he accepted Norin's conditions and gave him a powerful force. The moment Norin came into contact with this power, a layer of silver shell immediately grew all over his body, and his memory, good and evil, conscience, and moral values completely disappeared. After that, the Silver Surfer was born. Suk shook his head and was speechless again, because if the Silver Surfer really came to Earth, then it was obvious that Galactus would be coming soon. Earth is really dangerous. With a sigh in his heart, Suke looked at the strange. The doctor said, "Okay, don't worry, I will find a way to deal with this matter." Ding! We have detected that Galactus is about to invade Earth. Now we are issuing a side quest. Help the Fantastic Four resist Galactus invasion. Reward: 200,000 system points, 1 chance to win a prize. Just as Doctor Strange left, the system's voice suddenly rang in Suke's mind again. What the hell, it's really timely. But after thinking carefully, he had nothing to do at the moment, so he might as well go find the Fantastic Four to play with. He was free anyway. Thinking this way, Suke opened another space channel, and after crossing it, he instantly came to Manhattan where the Fantastic Four were. It is worth mentioning that the Fantastic Four is the first superhero team in the Marvel Universe. Their history is much earlier than that of the Avengers. The team consists of 4 heroes, namely Mr. Fantastic Reed Richards, Invisible Woman Susan Stone, Human Torch Johnny Stone and Stone Man Ben Graham. And the way they obtained their abilities is also different from others. They were all astronauts. When they took a spacecraft to perform a mission in space, they encountered a strong ray storm during the voyage. After finally returning to Earth, the effects of the rays began to appear. Susan mysteriously disappeared and suddenly appeared. Ben turned into an orange stone monster, Reed's body became stretchable like a rubber band, and Johnny turned into a blazing flame and flew into the sky. In this way, the Fantastic Four was born. Nick Fury had tried to invite the Fantastic Four to join the Avengers before, but the Fantastic Four were busy dealing with other enemies at the time, so they had no time to deal with Nick Fury, and the matter was left unresolved. On the other side, just as Suke stepped out of the space channel, a scorching flame suddenly exploded in front of him. Boom! At the same time, an angry voice was heard not far away. "Johnny, please be careful. You almost killed someone." Then, Suke looked up and saw the flaming thunderbolt flying in the air. "I don't know what happened," Thunderbolt shouted with a wronged look on his face. "There was no one there just now, that guy suddenly appeared." Suke was speechless at first, then he looked around and realized that he seemed to have come at a bad time. The Fantastic Four seemed to be fighting with someone, and he was at the center of the battle. This was really lively. "Hey, kid, who are you? Why are you here suddenly?" Then, just as Suke was about to say hello to the Fantastic Four, a surprised voice suddenly came from behind him. Looking back, a man covered in armor suddenly appeared in front of Suke. Suke recognized this guy at a glance. Dr. Doom. Dr. Doom's real name is Victor Von Doom. He was born in a fictional small Eastern European country, Latveria. He did not have any superpowers. Later, through learning and chance, he mastered a lot of magic knowledge. His magic level can compete with Doctor Strange. Because he was disfigured in the experiment, he wore a metal mask and developed a magic that was no less powerful than Iron Man. Armor, as well as various high-tech equipment, relying on magic and high-tech skills, Victor dominated the area, seized the supreme power of Latveria, and then gradually promoted it to a world power. At the same time, he tried to conquer the outside world and fought with superheroes such as the Avengers and the Fantastic Four many times. Suke was somewhat surprised. He didn't expect that he would run into the battle between Doctor Doom and the Fantastic Four. But then, he still said with a hint of politeness, "Don't worry about who I am." I came here today to discuss something with the Fantastic Four. Can you please leave first? Wait until I'm done with anything. Do you know who you're talking to, kid? I'm Dr. Doom. I'll take that as a rejection. Then, before Dr. Doom could finish his words, Sook suddenly interrupted him, grabbed Dr. Doom's collar, and threw him out like garbage. Boom! With a loud bang, Dr. Doom crashed into a building, and then accompanied by a series of explosions, Dr. Doom flew out from the other side of the building, and then fell heavily to the ground, unable to get up again. This is not because Dr. Doom is too rubbish, but because the power that Sook just used is too strong. In Sook's hands, Dr. Doom feels like an ant. Although he didn't know who Sook was, from the overwhelming power he had just displayed, Dr. Doom knew that he would never be Sook's opponent. Escape. Then, without any hesitation, Dr. Doom suddenly blew a whistle, and in an instant, an invisible plane suddenly appeared in the air, and then a rope stretched out from the plane. After Dr. Doom grabbed the rope, the plane flew away quickly. During this period, Sook did not make any more moves, because he was not here for Dr. Doom this time. Seeing that Dr. Doom was about to escape, the Human Torch was ready to chase him, but at this time, Mr. Fantastic waved his hand and shouted, "Johnny, don't chase him, we may have more important things to do right now." After saying this, Mr. Fantastic looked at Sook. Walking up to Sook, Mr. Fantastic extended his hand very friendly, and then introduced himself. "Hello, my name is Reed Richards, nice to meet you, thank you for helping us deal with Dr. Doom." Suke. Suke stretched out his hand and uttered 2 words lightly. However, after hearing his name, Mr. Magic was greatly surprised. He looked at Suke in surprise and said, "Wait a minute. You are not that Suke, are you? An alien from outer space?" Suke was somewhat surprised when he heard this. "You know me." "I don't know him, but I've heard Tony mention you before. According to him, you are a very powerful alien. It's my honor to meet you," Mr. Fantastic said with a smile. "So that's how it is." After hearing this, Sook suddenly realized it. Then at this moment, the Human Torch landed, and the Stone Man and the Invisible Woman on the side also came over. They all stared at Sook in surprise. Obviously, they didn't expect Sook to be an alien. And in the eyes of the Human Torch, Sook easily detected a hint of excitement. In fact, the Human Torch was really excited at this moment. As an active combat member, he has always been eager to fight with aliens, especially after seeing the power Sook showed just now, which made him even more excited. For a moment, Mr. Fantastic seemed to have noticed something, and then he coughed lightly, then looked at the Human Torch on the side and said, "Johnny, Mr. Sook is one of our very important guests, don't mess around." Mr. Fantastic was really worried that the Human Torch would annoy Sook, because according to what Tony had said before, Mr. Fantastic knew that Sook was not only an alien with great power, but also a person who must not be offended. Anyone who offended him was killed by him. Mr. Fantastic didn't want the Human Torch to die in Sook's hands. However, the Human Torch didn't care about Mr. Fantastic's advice. He just stretched out his hand to Sook and said, "Hello, I heard that you are a very powerful alien. If you have time, why don't we compete to see who can fly faster? You should be able to fly, right?" The Human Torch has always existed in the Marvel Universe as a straightforward young man, so when he heard these words, Sook was not angry, but smiled and said, "Okay." At the same time, he couldn't help but sigh in his heart that this kid is really stupid. At this point, not to mention Mr. Fantastic, even the Invisible Woman and the thing beside him were completely speechless. "Okay, Johnny, Mr. Sook must have something important to talk to us about, so don't disturb him," the Stone Man said, and pushed Johnny aside. Smiling apologetically at Sook, Mr. Magic said again, "Mr. Sook, I guess you must have something to talk to us about today, right?" "That's right, and it's not a small matter, it's a big matter concerning the safety of the Earth." Sook nodded. When Mr. Fantastic heard this, his face suddenly became cautious, and then he said, "This is not the place to talk, please follow us to our base." Sook did not refuse, and then the group came to the base of the Fantastic Four. After sitting down, Sook was not in a hurry to say anything, but asked, "Have you found anything strange recently?" Strange things. When the Fantastic Four heard this, they looked at each other at first, and then the Invisible Woman said, I didn't think there was anything strange, but after hearing what you said, I remembered that there have been quite a lot of strange things recently. First, a rare natural landscape appeared in a certain place, causing the sudden death of countless birds, and then it was summer in a certain place, but the sea was frozen, and then a city in Europe suddenly lost power inexplicably, and it was not a malfunction, as if all the electricity was sucked away by someone. Quote, and the silver figure I accidentally saw a few days ago. Added the thunderbolt on the side. Silver figure. Hearing this, Suke suddenly became interested, because as far as he knew, it seemed that when the Silver Surfer first appeared on Earth, it was the Thunderbolt who discovered him. Tell me carefully, where did you see that silver figure? Suke asked. It seemed to be over New York. Just 2 days ago, I saw a silver figure suddenly appear in the sky. It looked like a person was skateboarding. I wanted to chase after it to check, but it was very close to space, and I couldn't breathe in space, so I had to give up. Knowing that everyone was discussing business, the Human Torch became serious for a rare time. Mr. Fantastic on the side saw this and hurriedly said, Mr. Sook, is the major event concerning the safety of the Earth that you mentioned before the silver figure that Johnny mentioned? Almost. Sook nodded and said, the silver figure is called Silver Surfer. He is the servant of Galactus, one of the 5 creators of the universe. Galactus is a creator who relies on devouring planets to survive, and Silver Surfer is responsible for helping Galactus find planets that can be eaten by him. Obviously, they have set their sights on the Earth this time. What? Upon hearing this, the Fantastic Four were instantly confused. Although they didn't know who Galactus was, just by hearing the name of the creator of the universe, they knew that he must be an extraordinary existence. And now, this extraordinary existence is actually going to devour the Earth. Is this really something they can stop? After a brief hesitation, the Invisible Woman finally spoke. Mr. Sook, first of all, thank you very much for coming, but with all due respect, shouldn't you go to the Avengers for this kind of thing? Our power is far less than that of the Avengers, and we simply cannot cope with such a world-destroying disaster. This is not because the Invisible Woman is modest, but she really has no confidence at all. You know, that is Galactus, one of the 5 great gods of creation. Then, Mr. Fantastic also echoed, yes, I also think that this matter should be told to the Avengers. Sook was speechless, thinking that if it weren't for the mission, I would have gone to fight Galactus alone, so how could I have time to talk nonsense with you here? However, just when Sook was about to say something, a news report suddenly appeared on TV. According to the latest news from our station, an extremely huge deep hole suddenly appeared in the sea outside New York. Someone even photographed a silver-white alien creature. We initially suspected that this alien creature was the culprit of this incident. Many rare events on Earth recently may also be related to this. Then, the picture flashed again, and then a big hole on the sea suddenly appeared in front of everyone. And above the big hole, there was a silver-white figure. Silver Surfer. Suke was a little surprised. He didn't expect this guy to come so quickly. Johnny, what are you doing? Suddenly, the Invisible Woman shouted again. Suke looked back and saw that the Human Torch had appeared outside. Sorry, I won't wait for the Avengers to save the world. We are the Fantastic Four, we can save the world too. After saying this, the Human Torch suddenly flew to the place where the incident happened before. Suke smiled slightly. This guy is really a fool. He didn't even bother to talk. Okay, you guys think about it, I won't bother you anymore. After saying this, Sook stopped paying attention to the Fantastic Four, and immediately opened a space channel and left. Although the Silver Surfer is very strong, it is not to the point where Sook needs to take action. This matter can be left to the Fantastic Four and the Avengers. As for the Galactus that appeared later, this is the opponent Sook wants. At the same time, the stock building. Jarvis, help me detect what kind of creature this is. In the office, Tony and Banner were studying a picture. There was only a silver-white figure on the picture. Zoom in, yes, that's it. Then, perform 3D simulation processing. Accompanying Tony's instructions, Jarvis finally successfully 3Ds the picture. But then, when he saw what was displayed in front of him, he was shocked and speechless. Because this is a humanoid creature with a silver body and a surfboard. Is this an alien? Banner asked in surprise. Is there any need to ask this? Tony smiled bitterly and said, will humans look like this? First it was Loki, and now there is this inexplicable guy. The Earth is really in danger. Sir, according to my preliminary analysis, this humanoid alien creature has the ability to fly faster than the speed of light, as well as strong resistance to attacks. There are also strong energy fluctuations around it, which makes it an extremely dangerous existence. For a moment, Jarvis' voice rang again. I know, Jarvis, you don't have to explain it so clearly. Tony smiled and shook his head, then looked at Banner and said, it looks like we have to call the Avengers together again. Do you need Hulk? Realizing the seriousness of the problem, Banner asked seriously. Tony's face changed slightly, and he waved his hand and said, not yet. Compared with Hulk, I need you to help me analyze this alien creature more. Next, Tony began to contact other members of the Avengers and told them about his discovery as soon as possible. At the same time, on the other side, continuously speeding up his own speed, the Human Torch finally saw the true appearance of the Silver Surfer. This made the Human Torch very excited. He finally had the opportunity to fight the aliens. However, facing the pursuit of the Human Torch, the Silver Surfer not only did not think about speeding up, but even slowed down his speed, and played a cat-and-mouse game in the air with the Human Torch one after the other. Even so, the speed of both of them was still unbelievable, and they soon came to a sandy beach. The sky above the desert. But at this moment, the Galaxy Surfer suddenly stopped. Seeing this, the Human Torch behind him felt nervous. When he wanted to avoid it, it was too late. The Galaxy Surfer grabbed his neck and lifted him up in the air. The temperature of the Human Torch was very high, almost close to the temperature of the sun, but even with such a temperature, he couldn't hurt the Silver Surfer at all. But at this moment, the Human Torch, who was being held in the air by the Silver Surfer by the neck, felt very uncomfortable. Although he had superpowers, he was still a human being. He was almost unable to breathe when the Silver Surfer grabbed his neck. Hi, friends, we can have a good talk. There's no need for this. The Human Torch forced a smile on his face and said to the Silver Surfer in front of him that at this moment, he was really going to die. But in the face of his request, the Silver Surfer did not show any expression, and his face was still cold. The next second, the Silver Surfer suddenly took him directly to the sky, and soon, they had rushed out of the atmosphere. Both the life and the flame of the Human Torch need oxygen to maintain, but there is no oxygen outside the atmosphere. Soon, the flames on the Human Torch's body gradually went out, and his consciousness began to blur, and finally he fell into a coma. Seeing that the Human Torch had fallen into a coma, the Silver Surfer let go of his hand and let the Human Torch fall. Falling from a height of tens of thousands of meters, even with superpowers, Thunderbolt would surely be dead. Fortunately, the cold air flow woke him up after a short while. The moment he opened his eyes, Pillahuo couldn't help but swear. Then, without any hesitation, he quickly began to control his ability again. Fire! Fire! Hurry up and catch fire! But who knew that at this moment, his ability could no longer be used. It's over. I'm really dead now. After trying several times, he still couldn't use his ability, and Thunderbolt was completely desperate. Then, just as he was about to close his eyes and wait for death, his body was held up by someone. At the same time, a somewhat comforting voice sounded beside him. Fortunately, I finally caught up. Opening his eyes excitedly, Thunderbolt found that the person who appeared beside him at this moment was none other than Iron Man Tony Stark. Johnny, are you okay? The next second, there was another shout from not far away. It was his sister Invisible Woman, Mr. Fantastic and the Thing. Behind them, there was a new jet plane with the Avengers inside. It turned out that after the Human Torch and Sook left, Mr. Fantastic immediately contacted Tony. At that time, Tony was also gathering the Avengers to study the Silver Surfer. The two sides hit it off and formed a team. Fortunately, Tony came in time. If it was a little later, I'm afraid the Human Torch would have been smashed into a pool of meat paste. How is it? Where's that guy? After landing on the ground, Tony asked nervously. I don't know, but I think I saw him flying into space. This guy is really strong. The Human Torch changed his usual arrogance and said with some lingering fear. It was obvious that what happened just now had left him with a psychological trauma. In any case, the Silver Surfer had returned to space, and they could no longer track him. Then, the Avengers and the Fantastic Four returned to Stark Tower. After returning to Stark Tower, Mr. Fantastic immediately tracked and studied the energy of the Silver Surfer remaining in the Human Torch, and then after multi-directional comparisons, he discovered something very serious. Gathering everyone together, Mr. Fantastic said sternly, "Everyone, the results of the research are out. Although we don't know what energy this alien creature is made of, there is no doubt that any planet where he has appeared will completely become a lifeless Death Star in just a few days." As soon as these words came out, everyone became cautious. Then, the Invisible Woman suddenly thought of something, and then murmured, "Sure enough. That guy is right, it's all true." Tony became curious when he heard this, and asked quickly, "Susan, what are you talking about? What about that guy? What do you know?" This is a threat that is enough to destroy the Earth, so the Invisible Woman did not hide anything and directly told them everything that Sook had told them before. After listening to the Invisible Woman's words, everyone present looked at each other again. Tony shook his head and said unhappily, "This guy is really not nice. Why didn't he tell us such an important thing? Are the Avengers not as powerful as the Fantastic Four?" "Okay, Tony, I believe he has his reasons for doing this, don't worry about it. Our main problem now is how to catch this guy and save the Earth, because according to Sook's previous statement, the Galaxy Surfer is just a pioneer, and the real threat is Galactus, one of the 5 gods of creation." Mr. Fantastic said with an unpleasant expression, "And I have used the most sophisticated space instruments and radar to observe that not far from the Earth, there is a spaceship the size of a planet heading towards the Earth. If I am not mistaken, that should be Galactus's spaceship. At most 3 days, Galactus will come to the Earth, and we must think of a way to save the Earth within 3 days." Galactus. Although it was the first time for everyone in the Avengers to hear this name, just from the name, everyone knew that Galactus would definitely be a powerful opponent. After all, he is the creator god who feeds on planets. "Tony, I think it's best to contact Sook for this matter. This kind of thing is not something we can solve." Then, Banner suddenly spoke again. "Of course I know. I contacted this guy a long time ago, but he didn't answer the phone at all, and he wasn't at home. Even Black Widow didn't come. I don't know what these 2 guys are doing. Not to mention Thor, he hasn't been to Earth for a long time." Tony smiled bitterly and shook his head. At the same time, in a bedroom of S.H.I.E.L.D., 2 bodies were constantly entangled. One is Natasha and the other is Sook. After saying goodbye to the Fantastic Four, Sook immediately came to S.H.I.E.L.D. to look for Natasha. At that time, Natasha was summoned by Tony, but because of Sook's arrival, she did not go. As for Sook's arrival, Nick Fury turned a blind eye. In his opinion, as long as Sook did not cause trouble, he would be very grateful. As for other things, he was too lazy to care. Moreover, he was the first to receive the report of what happened in the Avengers and the Fantastic Four. He was so busy at the moment, ready to cooperate with them, that he could not take care of anything else. After a long time of entanglement, the 2 separated. Soo-K lay comfortably on the bed, while Natasha lay in his arms, panting lightly, with happiness in her eyes. Perhaps in the eyes of outsiders, she is a top-level S.H.I.E.L.D. agent and a member of the Avengers, but in her own heart, she is just Soo-K's little woman. As long as she can be with Soo-K, she doesn't care about anything else. Tony is so anxious to gather the Avengers. "I think there must be something important. Is it really okay for me not to go?" Natasha asked worriedly, her fingertips gently stroking Soo-K's chest. "Don't worry." Soo-K smiled and said, "It's just a soldier who came now, and I have already contacted the Fantastic Four. With their help, this matter will definitely be no problem. If Tony and the Fantastic Four can't catch a soldier, then these guys are too embarrassed." Natasha was curious and asked, "Why? Do you already know everything?" "Of course, is there anything in this world that can be hidden from me?" With a faint smile, Soo-K explained to Natasha. After listening to Soo-K's explanation, Natasha was surprised again, because she didn't expect that the Earth would welcome a cosmic giant like the Devourer of Planets. But when she saw Soo-K's confident face, she knew that as long as Soo-K was there, even the Devourer of Planets could not do anything to the Earth. Her man is indeed the most powerful. Thinking of this, Natasha felt happy again. But at this moment, Soo-K was somewhat worried. Tony and the others should be okay, right? At the same time, on the other side, after further research on the Silver Surfer, Mr. Fantastic and Tony agreed that the Silver Surfer's energy source is the skateboard under his feet, and this skateboard even has the function of transmitting signals. As long as the skateboard is destroyed, the Silver Surfer will become weaker, and even Galactus will not be able to determine the location of the Earth. After this discovery, everyone breathed a sigh of relief, but before they could breathe a sigh of relief, they suddenly detected the signal that the Silver Surfer had come to the Earth. Avengers, attack! Following Tony's order, the Avengers and the Fantastic Four set out at the same time. And their plan was simple, which was to destroy or get the Silver Surfer's skateboard and then catch the Silver Surfer. Using high-tech equipment, they quickly found the whereabouts of the Silver Surfer. In Antarctica. Then, when everyone arrived at the South Pole, the Silver Surfer had been waiting here for a long time. And under him was a huge pit, exactly the same as the one that appeared in New York before. Hey, Silver Surfer, you're surrounded by us. If you know what's best for you, you'd better surrender. Otherwise, don't blame us for being rude. Tony said, and all kinds of weapons on his body suddenly appeared. The Thunderbolt also appeared beside Tony with a serious face. As for the others, because they had no ability to fly, they could only wait on the plane. Facing Tony's warning, Silver Surfer still did not react at all, but his expression became colder. What's going on? Is this guy dumb? Tony shrugged and looked at the Thunderbolt beside him helplessly. I don't know, but I know he will definitely not surrender, said the Human Torch, and suddenly rushed up again, and then threw out a large ball of hot flames. Then, Tony did not hesitate, and all kinds of weapons on his body were fired out in an instant, and the target was the Silver Surfer. At the same time, the other people on the plane were not idle either, and all kinds of weapons were quickly fired at the Silver Surfer. You know, this is a matter related to the comfort of the Earth, no one dares to be careless. But what happened next shocked everyone. Facing the attacks of everyone, the Silver Surfer not only did not dodge, but instead blocked the silver skateboard under his feet horizontally in front of himself. In an instant, the silver skateboard absorbed all the attacks. None of their attacks caused any harm to the Silver Surfer. Tony was a little speechless, because he didn't expect the Silver Surfer's skateboard to have this function. Then, just when everyone was a little surprised, the Silver Surfer suddenly rushed over again. He was so fast that even Tony couldn't see his movements clearly. Almost in an instant, Tony and the Human Torch were knocked to the ground by the Silver Surfer. When Sook emerged from the space tunnel, the Silver Surfer had almost completely wiped out the Avengers and the Fantastic Four, which left him speechless. You can wipe out a whole army when fighting a small monster. What can I expect from you in the future? These guys really can't do anything without me. Sook, be careful, this guy is very strong. At this moment, Tony, who was crawling out of the snow, also found Sook and immediately shouted. Okay, I got it. I'll take care of this guy. You better go and save the others. Sook said speechlessly as he looked at the other people who were knocked down in the snow and whose lives were uncertain. Then, he flew into the air and stopped opposite the Silver Surfer. At this moment, the Silver Surfer looked at him cautiously. As a being with powerful abilities, the Silver Surfer felt a lot of pressure from Sook. This was a kind of pressure that could not be described in words, and he had never felt this kind of pressure even from his master, Galactus. However, when he thought of his master, Galactus, the Silver Surfer's eyes became firm again, because he believed that as long as his master came here, everything here would disappear, including the guy in front of him. There was no need to fight him. Thinking of this, the Silver Surfer was ready to leave, but it was obvious that Sook would not give him this opportunity. With a teleportation, Sook appeared in front of the Silver Surfer and greeted him with a punch. Want to run? Did I let you leave? As the punch was thrown, the surrounding space was shattered, revealing a huge black hole, and the Silver Surfer was sucked into the black hole. What? For a moment, a look of surprise finally appeared on the calm face of the Silver Surfer. Although he knew that Sook was not simple, he did not expect that Sook's power had reached this level. Before coming to Earth, he had been to countless planets. Although there were strong people on those planets, those strong people were insignificant to him. He defeated them with almost no power, and then his master, Galactus, would begin to devour those planets. He had never met a strong man like Suk. Just a light punch, but he could directly break a black hole. What a powerful force. Although he was a little frightened, he was the servant of Galactus after all. Then, he reacted quickly, and then increased his strength and quickly rushed out of the black hole. But it was obvious that Suk would not let him go like this. Staring at Suk, who was standing in front of him, the Silver Surfer was also very angry at this time. After all, after becoming the servant of Galactus, he had never suffered such a loss, which made him almost unbearable. Then, he instantly began to attack. Waves of special energy began to continuously flow out from the skateboard under his feet, and then began to spread throughout his body, making him look more dangerous. This is a unique way of attacking him. He constantly draws energy from the skateboard and then attaches it to himself, making his body harder, and the speed will increase tenfold. Under such an impact, even asteroids will be destroyed by him. And because the speed has exceeded superluminal speed, such an attack is almost unavoidable. Next, without the slightest hesitation, the Silver Surfer rushed towards Suk. However, when rushing towards Suk, the Silver Surfer was surprised to find that his speed had suddenly become extremely slow. Not to mention superluminal speed, he was like being frozen in midair. At the same time, he keenly realized that the energy in his body was also rapidly dissipating. What on earth is going on? The Silver Surfer was horrified, but there was nothing he could do. How boring. It seems that without the power of Galactus, you are nothing at all. You really disappoint me. Suk shook his head and looked at the Silver Surfer, who was imprisoned by the power of time, with contempt. Then, he waved his hand, and the skateboard under the feet of the Silver Surfer flew towards him. The skateboard is the source of power for the Silver Surfer. Without the skateboard, the Silver Surfer was suddenly horrified, and there was some fear in his eyes when he looked at Suk. Next, Suk suddenly snapped his fingers again, and the time confinement around the Silver Surfer was instantly released. Then, the Silver Surfer began to fall to the ground at a loss. Suk obviously noticed that the moment the Silver Surfer fell, the skateboard in his hand struggled to fly over, but of course, he would not allow this. As for whether the Silver Surfer was alive or dead, Suk was too lazy to care about it. After all, it was this guy who brought Galactus to Earth. What does it matter if he died? And this skateboard, what a good thing. Sweeping his eyes over the skateboard, Suk's eyes showed a hint of surprise. You know, this thing is directly connected to the energy of Galactus, and the power in it is almost endless. As one of the 5 great gods of creation, Galactus seems to have always been a universal existence, as if anyone can defeat him, but don't forget that this guy is always one of the 5 great gods of creation, and his own energy is almost unlimited, not even worse than Dormammu. In some events in Marvel, this guy once destroyed the universe. After getting the skateboard, what Suk has to do next is to wait quietly for the arrival of Galactus. When Suk landed on the ground, the Avengers and the Fantastic Four had been found by Tony. In addition, Tony also fished out the Silver Surfer, who fell into the deep sea, and this guy's life is really hard enough. He fell from such a high place and didn't even get hurt. So, what are we going to do with this guy now? We already have the skateboard, and this guy seems to be useless. Hawkeye took out an arrow from his back and knocked it on the Silver Surfer. At this time, the Silver Surfer finally spoke, but of course, he didn't speak to Tony and Hawkeye, but to Suk. Human, you are making a serious mistake. When my master, Galactus, arrives, all of you will die. Suk found it funny and said, to be honest, I would go find him even if he didn't come. He's just a creator god, right? I'll kill him anyway. Also, take a good look at me, am I really a human? Upon hearing this, the Silver Surfer looked at Suk again, and soon, he discovered the special energy in Suk, which was the energy that belonged exclusively to the Eternals. You are a Titan, a member of Thanos' tribe, why is this happening? Didn't Thanos kill all his people? Silver Surfer said in great surprise. As a being who often roams in the universe, he has naturally heard about the mad Titan Thanos. Even his master has warned him that if he encounters Thanos, he must not conflict with him. Obviously, even his master Galactus is afraid of Thanos' power. Now he actually saw a Titan from the same family as Thanos here, which really surprised him, because as far as he knew, Thanos seemed to have slaughtered all his people. I am lucky, so he couldn't kill me. But soon, I will go find him. But before that, I have to kill your master, Galactus, first. Sook said calmly. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.